You could do the Joe Rogan thing and just like have everyone just talking, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're live. It's
Oh,
like,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah,
we've been live for the last like 3 minutes, and all that shitty things he said. Yeah, we got that on camera.
Yeah, I know. You know what pisses me off is like they're always like, yeah, right before the podcast we were talking about this, and I'm like, and I kind of do it to people too, but I'm like, well, I want to hear that shit too.
Yeah. Why not get the off-camera stuff?
Yeah, indeed.
So this is my first podcast. I did the Budo video thing.
Which I tell people about all the time, man. That is, I was sharing the BJJ versus cancer. And it's been nice. I don't know who your dude is putting stuff out on the YouTube for, I guess, Kama Jiu-Jitsu, the vlog, but they put a few videos out, which I saw Budo videos did that rear naked choke. Just a little, or at least it was on their page.
Yeah.
But the Kama vlog stuff is cool.
Yeah, that's our guy, Ryan. That's a cool story, actually. Dude, Ryan started jiu-jitsu in the early 90s, got his purple belt way back in the day. Like, he was maybe a blue, Dave was a purple. Rickson gave him his purple. And then he went to Hawaii and was training with Helson. Then Helson was kind of gone. And so he stayed at purple belt for like 15 years or something. He just kind of fell off the... he would train like once every 3-4 months, something like that, just to kind of stay kind of active. Anyway, he ended up in Southern California, and I'm going blank on the guy's name right now, but he only trains people out of his garage. Not Chris Howder, but kind of like that. He's just kind of got this cult following of just these like dudes that know him. You kind of just have to know him to get invited to the garage. I'll remember his name in a second. Super legit. My buddy Nick Frakaskos got his black belt from this guy. But anyway, Ryan was a brown belt over there, and finally found Dave Kama. Kama used to be listed on Rickson's website as like an official instructor. He was the Rickson Gracie, Laguna Niguel main instructor, and then Henry Akins was the LA instructor. So anyway, Ryan finally found Kama and showed up as a brown belt, and then Dave just took him under his wing. He's like, bro, you started back in the early 90s. You should be like a third or fourth degree. You should have been one of the Dirty Dozen. There's no reason that... Now,
was Dave Kama Rickson's first American black belt?
No.
What was the story on that? I
Well,
always forget.
no, there was something online. They just did it wrong. It was Chris Saunders.
Okay, so he was just in the Dirty Dozen then, or what was
Kama?
What was the story on Dave Kama and Rickson, and how? Because I know that like Henry is his fastest promotion to blue belt and third American black belt or something like that. What was the story on Dave?
Well, let me finish the story about the like who Ryan Young is, but I'll answer that question. So anyway, this guy Dave Kama took Ryan under his wing. He's like, yo, you started way back in the day. You should be a black belt. You probably should be a third degree black belt. You fell off the wagon. So it was cool. Two parts. Dave took Ryan just under his wing. He's like, I'm gonna get you caught up, and we're gonna get you your black belt. And then he did. So Ryan got up to speed, and he and I got our black belts at the same time.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think you just reshared that picture on Facebook or something the other day, right?
Wait,
did you just reach your anniversary of like so many years since black belt or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I think in March it'll be 6 years at black belt, but it will be for he and I. But anyway, he's the one who puts out all the content for the Kama video log on YouTube, that YouTube channel.
Yeah. No. The first thing that pulls up when you type in is author at Kama Jiu-Jitsu.
For Ryan Young?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I really like his videos. Okay, yeah. Because he recently did a video where he was talking about traditions. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, we don't really do all this. Where did that come from? Somebody made it up a while back, and it doesn't exist in the original jiu-jitsu, so we don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just very, like, cut and dry, basic, formal but informal. Like, I mean, it's like, I really liked all the stuff he had to say in that particular video. But even some things that like we do that it's like, well, why do we do that? Yeah. Like, for example, turning around to, it's just, I don't even know where I got that. Like at one seminar or something I was at, I noticed somebody turning around to like tie their belt.
Yeah.
And then I've been at seminars where like, particularly American instructors would be like, hey, you don't have to turn around to fucking tie your belt, bro. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm just trying to show you respect. I don't know if you're one of those guys or not. And then I've like, maybe, I don't know if it's you, but somebody telling me that like you were at a gym where somebody didn't shake one of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Black
Belt. Yeah, and she started crying, and she had to do like a 500 push-ups, and then she felt so disrespectful as a person because she didn't somehow go and greet every black belt on the mat and shake their hand. And
what if there's like tons of black belts. On
No, they're
like in Brazil.
and that gym has a ton of black belts. So there might be 15. So if she missed it, she's gonna have to go back and do, I think it was 50 per person. So she's gonna have to do like 300 push-ups or something. It was.
I mean, do
ridiculous.
they cover that on the front end? Like, hey, if you don't shake every black belt's hand, you're gonna have to do blah blah push-ups for like sign here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna need to know. Like, that's some gyms don't like tip you off about their traditions. I feel like.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was traveling as a consultant, going across the country, all over the place, and I kind of found out that the hard way. Actually, I told you the story. I usually omit his name, but I'll say it. I was training with Salo and Janji down in San Diego when they for like 6 months I was working down there, and one time I was like, Janji, like, hey, you want to roll? And he's like, dude, that is so incredibly disrespectful. Like, and I was really taken aback. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, what are you calling me out? I'm like, you're a multiple world champion. I'm a little purple belt learning from you.
You're his student.
And you can tap me out at will from every position at any moment you want. No, I'm not calling you out. And I got really kind of butthurt about it. And I was just like, wow. But now that I'm more experienced, that I know that some gyms have traditions, some gyms have things. But when I was a white belt, I would ask Pedro. I started with Pedro Sauer in like 95, you know that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yo, Pedro, you want to roll? And he'd be like, sure. And then, in 98, rolled with it. I was up at the, it was the Palos Verdes Academy. It was downstairs. And I was like, hey, you want to roll? He's like, sure. And it wasn't like I didn't get morally bitch slapped or physically bitch slapped or yelled at. He was like, yeah, we'll roll. Or he was like, no, not today. I was like, okay. And then I would look around, hey, you want to roll? And but it was just out of innocence and just wanting to do jiu-jitsu. It wasn't a challenge.
I've never ever approached someone like calling them out in almost 12 years of doing this. It's always been like, I mean, like it doesn't even matter who it is. I'm like very humble and I'm like, hey man, you want to roll?
Yeah. Yeah. And we're here to do jiu-jitsu. It's like, do you want to do it? And you have every right. Like, just because I'm a higher belt it just means I've been doing something longer than you. And it doesn't mean like I have a higher status in life than you, or I'm a better person than you, or I know about more things than you. It's just like, I got better at jiu-jitsu before you did. So if you want to ask me to roll, I'm like, no, dude, no, I'm good. I'm going to rest this. Or like, actually, Brian and I, we're going to work on technique. So sorry, but I wouldn't be offended if some big ass dude or little dude or anybody, any belt wants to roll with me. And if I get caught, I get caught, and I can tap, and it's no big deal. That's what we're here doing. Anyway, so I don't feel challenged. Though I will say there are times where visitors will come in and it's a very highly aggressive sort of like, I've been in gyms and they're like, oh, you're here to test us? All right, let's see what's up. But what I was trying to say earlier is I learned by visiting all these different gyms to really find out the etiquette and the protocol before going there. And I try to diffuse you're the outsider. Oh, you're with Rickson, huh? You think you're better than us? And it's like, no, like, hey, dude, I'm in town. Can I roll? And I'll get with like a blue belt and I'll just exchange position. And I'll just kind of be chill and kind of like set the tone as like, I'm just here to get some exercise. Teach me something. If you guys have questions, I'd be happy to answer anything, but I'm not here to teach. I just want to know shit.
Is it awkward in any way? Like when you, for example, I think when you were traveling and going through this, I think that's exactly when we were talking about before the podcast. When you went to Inferno, which are like my coach's gym, and Mike and Caleb, and I don't think at the time Caleb even had his black belt, did he? Mm-mm. What's it like going to, because I mean, you see that more and more, and I know there's some controversy out there with the IBJJF it's actually the Brazilian.
It was like CBJJ or something.
Yeah, which is what we were talking about over dinner last night with Mr. Dring. How they're, purple belts can't teach, and then there was purple and brown belts can't teach. But like in this area, I mean, when I first, you could count on one hand the number of black belts in the state when I first started doing it. Now there's somewhere, there's over 10, but less than 20 in Arkansas. But I mean, what's it like going to a gym that's like, you're the highest ranked guy there. You have been training with Rickson, and it's like a couple of brown belts running class or whatever. Because that's one thing I like about you. You're just down to earth and humble dude. Just like, oh yeah, I'm just here to train. Yeah. Hey, what do you do here? I mean, it's very like equal treatment. Yeah, that's how I treat my students at the university. It's like, one of my professor buddies said this the other day. He's like, my students today were like, you treat me like you're our equal. And he's like, well, aren't you? Like, as a person?
Yeah.
You know, it just kind of, it is easy to let this get what I do. And I know you're teaching class more, so you probably deal with more situations like you just mentioned with people coming in and flexing their chest. When I was on the floor, I didn't even probably notice or get bothered by that as much. It was just like, oh, you're cannon fodder. I'm glad that you're here. It was exciting. And now it's just like, oh, I must protect my herd.
Yeah.
You know, I'll show you. It's not like, but it just, you interpret it in different ways.
I think I probably picked that up from Dave, because it's like, yo, dude, you here for class? Like, sweet, dude. Like, show up 20 minutes late, 10 minutes late, right on time, early. And he's like, hey, what's up, Jack? Like, I'm like, hey, Dave. It's like, cool, man. Get on the gi. We're rolling. We're gonna start the warm up. But it was always just laid back. And I don't. To be honest, the only formalities with Rickson is they line up before class, and he's in front of everyone. They bow to Elio, bow to each other, and they start class. And they line up in rank. And the only time, it's usually always Rickson. And Rickson he's kind of in his own league there. But I think one time Pedro Sauer came in, and he had Pedro right next to him, and then Fabio Santos and things like that. And I do think that if I was at a Crone class, when Rickson was teaching at Crone's, probably if there was a red belt, Rickson would have had him, the higher guy there, and then would have bowed to Elio, bowed to the class. But other than that, it's super chill, and everyone's just there to train. And so people are going to come and ask you to train, and it's just, I don't know, it's laid back. But that's the only formality that I can recall from that.
I will say this, like, you're a little bit closer to the wellspring of that sort of information. Like, not that many people can say they stood up in front of Rickson and Fabio and Pedro or whoever and bowed to Brazilian Gracie. What do you think? That's one thing I've heard Jiu-Jitsu Times and other publications writing articles on, is like the tradition and the etiquette of like bowing to the instructor. I mean, obviously it's like Rickson, like, hey, you guys better bow to my dad. Like, I kind of get it coming from Rickson, but what do you think about is that as a tradition that's removed past like Rickson or Hoyler or whoever? That's like, it's one of those brown belts in Arkansas. It's like, hey, everybody turn and bow to Carlson right now. And I know it's never really like that. It's just kind of, it's a tradition. It's an etiquette thing. But that's one that I've heard people talk about and bring up, and
the bowing specifically.
Yeah, I've never been in an academy where it's like, hey, actually, we might have done that in Mark Bradford's academy. We might have bowed to.
Caleb had people line up and bow.
Yeah, we bow. We just bow in like to the instructor, but like to the picture of Elio or whoever on the wall. That's I didn't even notice that for a long time. A few years ago, it got on my radar. A lot of academies do that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it pays homage to the source of the art. I think it's cool. A lot of schools they'll have Elio and Carlos Senior, because those are the two dudes. And
some will even do Maeda and Kano.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's cool. Like, it just is like, look, this is where it came from. That's kind of our, like, these guys figured stuff out, and they taught people. I guess I haven't really thought it through and given it much importance, but I do think acknowledging the source and sort of recognizing and trying to stay on that sort of path or tradition is important, because, like, what's happening right now, a lot of jiu-jitsu schools are they are going a bit McDojo, and it's a money-making, profiteering machine, and you just need people there, and if they're for like X amount of classes, you give them a blue belt. And so the quality and the core beliefs are gone now, and it's just a McDojo. You're there to make money, you're running a business, and yeah, you're gonna put your heart and soul into some students, but you're going away from the core principle values. And there are I'm sure there's a bunch of deadly Taekwondo guys who could knock my head off clean. So when I say this, it's not like talking shit about Taekwondo, but like, actually, I'll just talk about Judo. Judo used to be an insanely complete martial art. It had tons of groundwork, and they had this, I think it was Aikijitsu and then Judo competition, and then the judo guys lost because these guys did all these leg locks, and they went they went on the ground and did groundwork and were training that, and these judo guys got their ass kicked, so they're like, cool, we got to work on that. but it was real, and it was like, cool, we're here to fight, and we're here for self-defense, and we're here to like, and if you look at the old judo texts, they have strikes, and some of the original
Tamiwaza.
Yeah, so they had that, and then they had niwaza, groundwork, and then they had tachiwaza, the throws. They had all that stuff, and it was very complete. But then it kind of got in the hands of the Olympics, and the Olympics doesn't want to watch people do jiu-jitsu, or groundwork for a real long time. They want quick stand-ups, they want throws, they want either a quick pin or a fast throw. And so it went from being a complete martial art to, I want my competitors to win the most prestigious tournaments, and that's now in the Olympics. So we're going to forget all that body of knowledge, and we're only going to focus on what's most prestigious. And that's exactly what's happening in jiu-jitsu right now, is that you specifically have the IBJJF. It does not give a shit about self-defense because they have a point system, they have their stuff, they have their rules, and you're going to bend and use and manipulate the rules as much as you can, and you're going to wrap the lapel around so many things, and you can do this and that. It would never work in a fight ever. But if you win and you're an IBJJF champion, then you're the most prestigious guy in town. So then you're going to start training all your guys. You're like, yeah. We teach self-defense, of course. So do 1 week of headlock escape. Good, you got that. You're a master of that stuff. Okay, now let's get into the jiu-jitsu. And then let's do spider guard. And you take the lapel and let's do that. And even with leg locks are highly effective, but we'll see how this leg lock evolution goes, and if people can figure out how to really, really implement it in not UFC rules, but full-blown. Because I don't think you can kick a guy in the face if you're both in like a 50-50 guard. Correct. In the UFC. You can't come down and start heel stomping a guy in the face and kick as he's trying to lock stuff up. So
anymore. That's isn't that how Yuki Nakai lost his eye?
He got kicked in the face.
Wasn't that the?
I thought it was Gerard. Yeah, he locked up the thing and he got like face stomped.
Yeah. And
so, not to say that you can't evolve that technique to have it really work in a no rules fight, but when you impose these artificial rules or tournament rules for like sport jiu-jitsu or artificial rules for like UFC, anyway, the real like gnarly actual fight part of it gets lost. Anyway, so that's my rant on that. We don't have to talk jiu-jitsu the whole time, but obviously it's a big passion of both of us.
No, I mean it is. I mean, we're definitely going to talk about Skrillex too.
Yep, I body slammed him one time.
Here we are back on jiu-jitsu
and Skrillex at the same time.
Yeah. No, I remember last time or the time before last, we were in California. We're like going to the pyramid and
the what?
The pyramid where Worlds is at.
Yeah,
Walter Pyramid or whatever. Yeah. And you were like, you said something. You're like, yeah.
Oh, we were listening to Skrillex. That was in the car or something.
Biebs or something, and you were telling some funny stories, and then we were having some In-N-Out burger, and you're like, yeah, Sonny, and I'm thinking I'm like, Sonny, that's got to be like,
Sonny and Cher.
Some jiu-jitsu dude up here that you train with, one of your students, and you're like, oh, I mean Skrillex.
Yeah.
Sonny is Skrillex.
Yeah. So crazy story about that. Actually, I got two funny stories that like, this is how I try to tell the story about meeting Skrillex. I was at this cafe one time in Hollywood, and I like the emo kids are, for me in my generation, those were the goth kids, and I never really understood that or got along with them particularly, and I was just kind of like a punk rock skater kid. So the goth thing and being all like, I don't know, I want to kill myself, and it wasn't really my jam.
I would pull my bangs in my face, but
but I might assault you. No, just kidding. Yeah, so these two emo kids sit down, and I look at them. I'm like, man, I freaking hate emo kids. And then I was like, you know what? I bet they're actually good kids, and I'm actually being prejudiced. And I realized that about myself. I'm like, I have prejudged and determined who these kids are without ever talking to them once. And this is before skinny jeans were a thing, but they had like women's jeans on, like sagged down, super tight, their hair in their face, and they're just like, ugh. And I was like,
that is stereotypical. You hit the nail right on the head there, sir.
Yeah. And, but even though that they fit that stereotype, didn't mean that's who they were as a person. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go talk to these kids. So I sit down, and I'm like, I know for a fact I have something in common. And I was like, maybe 28 years old, maybe 25, something like that. And these kids were like 16, 17. I'm like, there's something I have in common with these kids. Like, what kind of music do you listen to? And they're like, oh, like emo and screamo. I'm like, name some bands. And they named like 40 bands that I've never heard of. And then it's funny because at this cafe, Elvis was playing in the background, right? And I look at the one kid, I was like, yeah, you look like a massive Elvis fan. And then they kind of give each other this look. And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm now the creepy old dude who's just like, I'm like that guy. And I was just like, I guess I'm going to embrace it. But they just had this look like, I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I'm not. I should probably just walk away from this conversation. I was like, what was that look? Like, nothing. And I was like, no, what was the look? He's like, tell him, dude. It's like, it's funny that you said that. I'm Elvis's grandkid. And I was like, what? I was like, oh, that's freaking crazy. And he's like, yeah. And I play guitar, or I forget it was guitar. He's like, I play guitar, I play drum. And he's like, I play drums, we're in a band. And I was like, oh shit, so you guys are musicians, you're not just fans of music? And like, yeah. And then we just started talking about music, and they were really just fascinating kids. And, you know, people, humans, they were just like fascinating. I was like, wow, I went from totally thinking I knew exactly who they were to being like, wait, what? You're what? And then finding that they're really creative. They write songs, they're in a band, they do all this stuff. And I was like, that's awesome. So fast forward, I'm in this shitty building in downtown LA. I'm living there. And this piece of shit, suicidal, horrible human being who's probably going to kill himself and maybe a few of his friends and a couple of the innocent bystanders moves into my building. He's got long, scraggly hair. He's like walking around as I perceive him. And then I was like, I'm being prejudiced again, but I always introduce myself to my neighbors. I just moved to a new place last week, knocked on the neighbor's door. Hey, I'm Jack. I'm your neighbor. If you need anything, give me a call, like whatever. My music's too loud. Here's like, just please let me know. I always try to stay in touch with my environment, right? So I knock on this suicidal maniac, a depressed, sociopathic, horrible emo kid. And I was like, here I am, duck, 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 duck. And he's like, hey, what's up? I was like, oh, hey. And he's like, well, I'm your neighbor. I just wanted to welcome you to the building. I'm on unit 5 and you're in 12 over here. But he's like, dude, that's great, man. Hey, I really like that you introduced yourself. Dude, my name's Sonny. Like, come in, check this out. He's like, I'm doing this remodel. I'm building this thing here. And like, check out this wall. And he had this massive wall painted turquoise with like a 10-foot by 10-foot awesome painting. It's like, dude, you want a drink? Check it out. Da-da-da. He's like, man, anytime you want to come and say what's up, like, that'd be cool. It's like, that is not what I expected. Anyway, he left a band called From First to Last. And it was like, that was about 2 years before he became Skrillex. Yeah. And so we would just hang out, and I just liked his energy and his enthusiasm for life. And he was just like really in touch and in good communication, and like a really nice person. And so I further learned that I was really prejudging people. Like, it was prejudice, you know. I had a predetermined opinion without ever having met someone. So
like, what do you just notice in the restaurant through introspection that you're being a judgmental asshole and call yourself out on it and go work through it right there on the spot? Yeah.
Here, you know, I actually have a rule in life is like, if I feel uncomfortable, like, I'm going to push myself in that. So I used to, like, you wouldn't believe it, but as a teenager, I was like a complete introvert. And I was like, cool, that's a big weakness in my life. I got to go talk to people. And so like,
I was too, man. I was super shy. I was homeschooled till 8th grade. And, I don't know, like, certain people I could talk to, but like in social situations, I never quite knew how to act. And, I mean, I feel like I'm totally over it now. I mean,
no, you're outgoing, you're chill.
Periodically, I'll be in some sort of weird environment or something, or like out of town in a weird environment. But for the most part, I've traveled
like in Arkansas at a bar where people come up, fart on you, and like try to play pool.
Oh man,
yeah,
fuck yes. But that I will say that's just the times that we've gone out together. You're definitely you never meet a stranger. You just. We'll be talking and you'll say, hey, do you want to be in this conversation? Strike up a conversation with somebody, which can backfire on you, I'm sure.
But. Oh, it happens all the time. Yeah. So I guess I am introspective in that regard where, you know, self-aware enough to know like, hey, that's kind of like, that's unusual about myself. Like, why? And then I'll just try to work through it or just go do it. Yeah. I'm not like super introspective where I just think about my behavior and think about reasons and think. I'm much more extroverted, but I do have the ability to look at myself and go like, what's that about? And then, but anyway, so I just decided to go talk to people. I'm in sales now, so I make money literally talking to strangers. I'll talk to a group of 20, 30 people, have them come to the office, and within probably 30 minutes, I have all of their financial statements. I've got their social security number. I've got all this stuff. And so for me, that's real normal, just to engage with people and ask them questions. And it's kind of funny, in sales, there's this rule, like, if you don't get inside someone's bubble, like their comfort zone, if you don't kind of like penetrate or impinge across that line, you're not going to move. You're not going to make a sale, because everyone has this like sales resistance, and everyone knows that you don't ask about finances. Everyone knows you don't ask social security numbers, so you're backed off. But if you don't go get that information, you can't actually improve the person's situation. So it's out of place from caring or getting your job done and like helping them improve their situation. You have to push through that. Like a good friend who might have trouble, you're like, it's his life. I don't mess with that. But you might actually, if you really care about the person, be like, dude, you're acting weird like the last couple of days. Like, what's up? No, I'm fine. Like, no, dude, like something's going on with you. What is it? And then we're socially taught to avoid that. Like, no, it's his life. It's his. So you kind of have to.
I'm like that with students at the gym a lot of times. Like,
because you care.
Yeah, you don't want to rub them the wrong way, but you clearly see that they're jacking stuff up for either other people or the culture of the gym or what have you, or themselves outside of the gym, inside the gym as a teammate. And it's like I've had several times over the years avoid. Just like you let it build up and you let it build up because you don't want to have those awkward conversations about, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah. I was at this gym, my friend's gym. I'm not going to say the name of it. But this one kid, man, he was a good kid. He was in there training. But there was a couple times where I don't know what he was high on, but it was like he was almost borderline in a seizure or just tripping balls so hard. He was just kind of like, and so after seeing this twice, I was like, I don't know what's going on in your life. I don't know who you are. I knew him. I knew him for like a year, but I'm like, I think you might want to stop doing that drug, because I'm actually genuine concerned for your well-being. And like, I don't like, you're pushing it kind of far. And it was funny, like, I'm not trying to control his life. I'm not trying to tell him what to do as a man, anything like that. But he was so thankful. He's like, man, good looking out, thanks. And then 3 months later, and I hadn't seen him for 3 months, he sent me a message on Facebook. He's like, dude, nobody really called me out on that, and I appreciate it. And then still another year later, he was like, man, I really liked that you cared about me and you were worried about me, and that meant a lot to me. So I don't know if he changed the course or not, but just that care factor. Like, if you see a student of yours and and they're kind of exhibiting something, and if they don't want help, cool. But I feel like it's irresponsible just to have like a group member, a friend, and just watch them trash their life,
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And, more and more it's become, and this I'm sure international issue, but especially nationwide, is opiates, opioids. People, and I'm not saying that that's what this dude was on. I don't know what he was on.
I don't know.
That's one thing that will do to you is it makes things like, and I'm not speaking from a point of experience on this, but it makes things like rolling and learning and thinking about stuff more enjoyable, I guess. Mm-hmm. But when it starts wearing off, or when it hits in super strong, either one. And again, I don't have enough experience with it, but it's like you literally are just nodding off, just like,
yeah.
Like we could be sitting here having a conversation, and the next thing you know, I'm just
high as a kite, just off in your own dream world,
just tripping basically. And I mean, it's this stuff that's going on with fentanyl, and
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah, there's the fentanyl, which is like 1,000 times more powerful than, I think, opium or maybe heroin, and then maybe it's 1,000 times more powerful than Oxycontin or something like that. I think
that's what it is,
or Vicodin. I forget what it is.
It's super powerful, way more than anything.
But now they have this other one there's fentanyl, and then it's like turbo fentanyl on steroids. Is this new one?
I've heard about it. Like just like a tiny little grain.
A grain of sand is pretty much enough to give you an overdose. And I guess they're making that in China, and they're cutting it with the opium. Yeah, the opium and shit that's here. So you can't really gauge. They want to make it like a good high, so they'll add that shit to it. But then maybe they did 2 grains of salt instead of 1, and then you go, well, normally my dealer normally gives me this stuff. I probably could take that same quantity from this guy, and then it had 2 grains of fentanyl in it, and then they OD and they die. I think it's like 60,000 people a day die, or not, or I forget, maybe it's a year from opioid abuse.
You ever watch you watch Vice?
No. Yeah, I've seen a few Vice episodes.
They are so good about raising awareness. They've done little short spots on like opiate addiction.
I think I saw one on fentanyl that because I didn't know you could scrape a patch and somehow concentrate that shit, and then yeah. There was something else I was going to talk about. I forgot opioids and fentanyl and all that, but
yeah, I was just hearing about this derivative of fentanyl that's way more powerful just the other day, maybe 10 days ago.
Yeah, I know I was going to tell you. I'm going to leave his name out. I have a good buddy who is pretty tight with an ex-UFC fighter. I don't know if he won the belt or not, but he was top 5, super hardcore, 170 pounds a few years back. And homeboy, he would have a fight, break his arm, have to get a surgery, and then the surgeons or the doctors would prescribe him whatever, Oxy, Vicodin, whatever.
Crazy pain meds.
And then, those are expensive. And then you can go get smack on the corner that gives you the same high, but they cut you off at some point. So then you go and you get heroin instead because it's the same high. And then, you're chasing the dragon, trying to get back to that first one. And now this guy, I was at a wedding, and he was a famous UFC fighter right next to me. High as a kite, full-on heroin problem, will do anything to hit a good, his thing is bro, when you hit a good vein, oh my God, and all his veins are collapsed and all this stuff. And that guy could have been a John Jones, could have been a Ronda Rousey, could have been the highest of the highest level, and he ruined his life because he had a few surgeries, got hooked on opioids, and then just his life just. And it's funny because I met him only once or twice, but I'm good friends with his buddy, and then that guy will now lie, cheat, and steal, and do anything he can to take advantage of anybody just to score his next high. Typical behavior from an addict. But it's crazy. It started out innocent, I'm in pain, so I herniated a disc, give me some drugs.
Yeah, have you ever what is that? Chris Herron. Have you ever heard of him? Mm-hmm. This is a documentary recommendation. I tell people about this all the time because I had a friend that struggled with some of these types of problems, and I didn't know what was going on until they talked to me about it. And in hindsight, kind of what you're saying, I wish I would have had the foresight to bring up the problem as it was going on. And even one time saw, I didn't even know, just naively enough, and this has been within the last few years, but this person started withdrawing in front of me.
Yeah,
they started sweating and shaking, and I'd actually given them a ride home after class.
Yeah,
and I'd noticed some weird behavior, like just basically this nodding off, and it wasn't until much later, and kind of the issue had evolved a little bit, and had kind of come to the forefront, that I looked back and was oh, that's what withdrawal looks like. That's what was, because I was what is going on? I didn't know, and this mood just immediately went from you and I are now to rage almost. And but there's a documentary that opened my eyes a lot of it. It's called it was a 30 for 30, which I really want to see, that new Ric Flair 30 for 30.
Yeah.
But it was called Unguarded. If you ever have a chance to watch it, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
Cool.
But it was this dude that's he's an NBA player named Chris Herron, and he is successful at basketball, always talented, and he started just the stories that he tells, and this was his high point. He's out on the street corner in his Boston Celtics uniform, waiting on his dealer to show up, because he knows that he cannot play and start and score without getting high.
Oh shit!
And he goes out there and scores 20 points in the game after he gets the Oxycontin. And I think the other night, if it wasn't, I talked to Dring about this recently, but he's on the narcotics squad in Little Rock, and he's seen enough crazy shit to offer perspective on stuff like this, particularly with these kinds of drugs and fentanyl. And it's he said this in some law enforcement training I was doing with him one day to a big group of cops. He's like, that shit'll make you a superhuman for a little while.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. It's
like when you're young, when you're 25, and that was the case that I saw with this person, is like, it made him super creative. It made him super physical. It made him everything for a while. And then it just hits that point where you got to move to that fentanyl, or you got to move to that. Yeah,
you build up a resistance, and then you got to get more, and it's like it just doesn't stop. I had a close family friend. Actually, I got my friend Chris Burdett. I think it was like 3 years ago. I got to call his sister, who I hadn't talked to in like 10 years. She calls me, and I was like, she's like, hey, it's Adrian. And I was like, oh, fuck, is he dead? She's like, yeah, we found him in the bathroom. He's dead. But, like, he just got hooked on pain pills and then heroin. And then probably the stuff he had was cut with fentanyl. And he was my best friend growing up. So, like, hit me kind of hard. And that's when I kind of looked into it a bit. And then another buddy of mine, he worked at a sales company that I worked at years back. And he's like, bro, I don't think I ever failed closed a deal when I took just a little bit of Oxy. I just take a little bit. I'm in a good mood. I'm elated. I'm
It does
funny.
that to some people.
Yeah.
Like pain pills never do that to me. Like that was another thing I didn't understand, is like people would do it and get an up.
Yeah.
And for me, it doesn't matter if I'm taking a hydro or whatever. It is like straight
What's
to the nods.
I don't even
like
know
a hydrocodone or whatever.
Oh, okay.
It's typically what
oxycodone, hydrocodone. Yeah, okay.
When I got my hernia repair a few years back, they gave me these big fat oxys, and they fuck you up, man. Like you can't, like it messes up your whole digestive system.
Yeah,
it gets your gut bacteria all messed
constipated.
Up.
Yeah, you get all.
And then they give you meds for that, which also have side effects.
Right. Yep,
it's like a vicious cycle, but. It never, like, literally, I'm immediately passing out, especially if I'm in pain or something, like recovering from a surgery. And so I never got it. I never got why people would do it, because the next day after I ever did anything like that, I never wanted more. It wasn't like any, just like pharmaceutical grade drugs. Like I've had muscle relaxers, pain pills over the years, dentist work, whatever, or like, hey, my back is jacked, and I've called just in excruciating pain and tried to find somebody who could give me a muscle relaxer or something, a tramadol or whatever. I don't even know what just like, hey, I can't turn
function.
over in the bed without getting stabbed.
Right.
And but the next day, or like the 2 days later or whatever, after the back issue is alleviated, I go to the chiropractor or what have you. I never was like, man, I'm going to get some more of that.
Yeah.
So, like, I could never empathize. And now I can. And that's what I had to get educated to develop empathy for these people. And now I do have empathy for them. It's one of the saddest things. Like,
it sucks when it gets, it goes too far. My understanding is that any and all drugs are a poison. And typically, if you do a small amount, it will act as a stimulant, like caffeine. You have a cup, 2-3 cups of coffee, and it's a stimulant. But once you get into like the 10% or 10 cups of coffee sort of range, it now starts acting as a depressant. Your body gets overwhelmed and it brings you down. So like Ritalin and Adderall. Adderall is basically, and I'm sure it's meth. That's what it is. It's like, it's very, very similar to meth. The effects of it are like meth. So you feel like you're like super focused, but you're methed out. If you give a guy a little bit of meth, he's going to tell you, no, dude, I'm on point. I'm sharp. I'm blah. But if you do a little bit of it, or, kind of a lot of it, you get up on this like turbo high. But when you give that to an adolescent kid, it's too much for them to handle, and it brings them down, and it's a depressant. So Ritalin, when you have hyperactivity, you're giving them too much stimulant, like 10 cups of coffee, and they're like, and it starts to depress their nervous system.
That's crazy. I've never heard it. I mean, I kind of understand it that way for kids, but I've never really thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Because, Joe Rogan's been talking about this on his podcast. Tons of his guests are on Adderall.
Yeah,
they come in, they're like, "Hey, man, Jack, I just had a great time," and
Yeah.
And man, I've had an Adderall before. Especially in college. Like that's like a normal thing for college students. Like, oh, hey, you got to stay up all night 6 times this semester, and here you go.
Take some meth. Yeah, you're good.
But and two, it's remarkable the amount of adults my age that work like just totally legit jobs, and they got a legit script for it. Not like they're buying it from some other college student, But
well, it's easy to get prescribed drugs. Like, I live in California, so it's like, hey, doc, I swear to God, my vagina hurts. He's like, fuck, man, you need to smoke weed. Here's a script. Yeah, smoke out, bro. He's like, oh, wait, I didn't even check. He's like, yeah, trust me, I have a vagina. It hurts. He's like, cool, smoke a lot. Here, yeah, we got a dispensary there. So they just want to give out drugs. I mean, it's real easy to get a script. And you can also get it online.
Here's a funny story. Actually, like when I was an undergrad, a buddy of mine got an Adderall prescription. And like at this time, I'm taking like 18 hours at a time, and I was kind of jealous. I'm like, damn, dude, like you just heard about this stuff, and then like we're like, I want to go get a script for it, and you went to your doctor, and he gave you a script. I'm gonna try that. Yeah. So I go in. I'm like, I got a lot of anxiety from studying for these tests, and I'm very busy, and I mean, this is like 7-8 years ago or some shit. And he's like, all right, man, I'm gonna write you a script for antidepressants. And I was like, well, shit.
Yeah, like, wait, I said the wrong symptoms.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I want
like,
Adderall, not.
And then I just kind of gave up on it. I was like, well, if it's that hard. And then I will say though that same friend, they took it way too far. Oh yeah, like that because well,
they call it like kitty coke because you can snort that shit and you can get. Apparently, it's pretty close to cocaine. Like,
well, I think it's bad if they give you smaller dosages because they were like, "Hey, here, take 10," or it was like I think they had him taking 10 milligrams a day, but apparently these 30 milligram time released are like more healthy meth. And like it's not as
because it's probably like sugars and stuff. Like you have complex carbohydrates, you got simple so you do a little bit and you're gonna go. It's like 10 milligrams, but it's gonna hit your system quick. So it's like wham and wham, and then if you did 30 milligrams over and it's like slowly released, it's like you're getting 3 milligrams in your system every hour for like 10 hours. I don't know how it works, but you're not gonna get those like sugar spikes or Adderall spikes. Boom, boom. Boom, boom,
Yeah, no, and I mean, just like any drug, they come with their side effects. Yeah. That's another thing.
I love those comedians recently been talking about that. They're like, take this pill because it's going to make you feel happy. And then you might shit yourself. You might kill yourself. You might kill your neighbors. You might blah, suicidal thoughts. You might get...
Dude, I love those commercials where it's like, it's the commercial and the core commercial is like 30 seconds long, and then it's the next minute, like they have a 90-second spot or something, is explaining all the shit that might go horribly wrong if you take it, and then like a little thing at the end, take our product.
Yeah. It's really funny. Apparently the United States is one of the only countries that just allows to advertise drugs, and so most countries it's like it has to be, a doctor has to listen to you and go, oh, that's this condition. Here's the drug.
I've wondered about that.
Yeah, like, hey, look, there's this condition. It's called adult ADD. Look, do you ever get nervous? Do you ever have trouble concentrating, which everyone does? And people are like, man, shit, I might have that. Maybe I should talk to my doctor about it. And they're
marketing.
Like, cool. Yeah, it is marketing. And it was on Joe Rogan. He was talking about this too. The guy who was like, bacon for breakfast. And he's like, they had this I think it was a heart medication that they were doing a clinical trial on, and then they stopped the trial and they asked everyone for the medicine back, and they're like, no, I'm keeping this, and they're like, okay, and they're like, why? And he's like, makes my dick hard, and they're like, wait, our drug does that? And they're like, yeah.
That's how they discovered Viagra.
So they created a condition, they invented a condition called erectile dysfunction or what, ED or whatever.
That John Jones has.
Yeah.
Dick pills.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, anyway, but it's marketing. That's what you push. You get people to think they have it. You convince them that it might be right, and then need it, and they're like, cool. And then you have a doctor to push it, and then doc makes money, drug company makes money, and not to say that people can't get it up, and maybe there's some people that need dick pills, but anyway, it's a marketing push.
What do you think about TRT replacement, which is kind of gone out of the limelight of topics to debate about, but it's crazy to me that was even a thing. Like, oh yeah, you're out, you're 28 years old and you're out, well, we gave you some more. And I mean, I actually think that there are
I know
benefits.
People, I know people that like actually a friend of mine who he was like 65 years old or whatever, he had sleeping issues. And so he went to every sleep doctor or whatever, and he finally went to an endocrinologist, and they go, look, when your test drops low, you don't sleep well. And then they did all the blood tests, they did all that stuff, and he had low T. So they gave it to him, and he started sleeping better. And he also got a little more jacked. But he's 65. He wasn't trying to Vitor Belfort it.
T-Tor.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've heard this. I've heard that when you start approaching 50, I think it is, your T levels start to go down. At least that's the number it's supposed to be at. But I've also heard, and it's kind of seemed like this narrative several years ago was like, well, you know, if you're like an NFL athlete or a UFC fighter, you might deplete through those stores a little faster. And
yeah, I
that's
think
why we have this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, that may not be how the argument itself was framed, but it's like, oh, well, I do more, so I've burned through all my testosterone. My body doesn't produce it anymore because I'm an NCAA wrestler or whatever. And I could kind of get that, but I think I don't know.
To be honest, I can't intelligently comment on it because I'm not an endocrinologist. I haven't read anything about it, but
bro science.
Bro science. Fuck yeah, give me that shit. I want to get T-Tor jacked out of my mind. Dude, did you see that? He was so jacked and his reaction time was so fast and he spun.
Oh, I know.
He'll kick that dude in the head.
Wasn't it Luke
Rockhold? Yeah.
Luke Rockhold.
Bam. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
Joe Rogan talked about that
I think I might also have low T.
Yeah.
If I can do that shit. Yeah.
Maybe that's maybe Edson Barbosa's problem's the opposite. He just produces high T.
Maybe
that's why his kicks are so fucking fast, dude. That dude has insane kicks. In that Khabib fight the other night,
it was nuts.
I mean, it was nuts, and he definitively lost. But in the third round, he was, like when somebody throws a tie kick and they miss and it spins the full 360 like really fast. He was still doing that in the third round after getting taken down and Khabib laying on him. Like
I think, what I like about that, and I don't know who commented on it, but being walked down and getting pushed back all the time and not being able to control the distance and kind of use the distance management when two guys square off. And so he was getting walked down because he was afraid of the takedown. So he's backing up. And when you're just constantly backing up, it's harder to just bang initiate offense. So, but he looked super worn down. But he knew his only hope in that fight was just nail him with an insane kick or a lucky kick.
He has like 2 wheel kick knockouts and then other knockouts. I was like, I want to say he's got a switch kick knockout or something outside of that without looking at his record. But I wonder when we're gonna reach. And granted, like, the whole game is my techniques are designed to beat your techniques and vice versa. But I wonder when we're going to reach a point in the art, in the industry of MMA or whatever you want to refer to it as, where you stop having people show up like Francis Ngannou that don't know how to fucking wrestle. Mm-hmm. Like, how are you? Like, he didn't have a wrestling coach in his corner, and they were asking him.
He never needed one though.
Yeah, granted.
You know what I mean?
But he's fighting an NCAA wrestler. Yeah. It's like, I mean, yeah, you almost knocked dude out, but it's like you got to hinge on the fact that we got to assume that NCAA wrestler is going to take
put you
down.
On your back. Yeah.
And for people to make it to all the way to a world title fight and not make that assumption heavily, just like for example, everybody hates this fight, but Tyron Woodley versus Damian Maia.
No, I didn't hate that fight.
I didn't hate it either. I was rooting for Maia, but it's like, damn, did you not put on an anti-takedown clinic, bro?
With one arm.
Yeah. Next to his labrum or whatever.
Yeah.
I was, and people dog on Tyron's fights with Wonder Boy as well. Same sort of deal. It's like, you fought a boring fight. And it's like, I think that's like the evolution of like, he only takes the lowest risk, highest reward sort of. And I think like you get a lot of people, they just don't look at things in that way. It's like, it's not a game to them.
I think it was a popular thing to do just to not like Woodley. And, he's not necessarily always.
I've met him one time. The dude's a dick.
Oh, is he really?
I'll say that. Like, and it was in Vegas. It was year before last. It wasn't with the Rickson seminar, but he was at my billing services booth, and there's nobody there talking. This is like when he just got signed to the UFC. Like, I want to say like I'd just seen him get knocked out by Nate Marquardt. Matter of fact, I was walking through the Venetian with Caleb, and I was like, "Hey, there's Tyron Woodley," and he's like, "Who?" And I'm like, he's Strike Force, Tyron Woodley. Like he'd just, like not even had any high profile fights in the UFC. And I went up to talk to him, and I'm just like, hey, dude, you know, what's up? And he's just like, and I'm like, dude, you know, yeah. Like, I mean, kind of like you're saying, it's like you see a UFC fighter over there, nobody's talking. It's like Caleb and I did that one time with Robert Drysdale. Oh. And the dude talked to us for like an hour and a half. He's like, oh, dude, I just got to be here for like 3 hours because these people like send me checks and stuff. Right. Like, you look at my curriculum. Like, I mean, it was cool just sitting down talking to him. He gave me his business card, and I kept it for a long time until I was like,
stand up real quick. This is my favorite meeting a UFC fighter story. Stand up. You gotta stand up. I'm Rashad Evans, and like, oh shit, Rashad, and say hi to me.
Oh, Rashad, hi.
Put your hand out to shake it. Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck, Rashad?
I was like, you know, there's.
Where'd you see him at?
In Vegas. But it was just like, oh shit, Rashad, dude, nice to meet you.
He must have just knocked Chuck out or something, because that motherfucker ain't relevant anymore.
Yeah. But, you know, you can catch guys on a bad day. Maybe they just broke up.
I know.
You don't know what's going on in their life. But for you to just, like, stare a dude down and be like...
You're the... Get out.
That's, like, intentionally like, bitch, you ain't in my league, man. Get the fuck away from me.
Dude, I'll say this, you know, funny meeting. Right after I lost, I think it was the Worlds at Brown Belt. I'd lost my match, and I was, like, sitting over there being a little bitch about it, like, up against the wall. And you were down there, like, by where the bullpen was. And so, like, Brian Stubner's under Kyle. Mm-hmm. And you saw Kyle walk by, and you're like, hey, Kyle Terra, what's up, man? I know Brian Stubner.
You saw
and
that?
I was, like, sitting over there, being a little bitch, like, sitting up against the wall. And it, like, almost made things a little better for him. I was like, oh, Kyle's an asshole. Because you were just like, oh, hey, man, we know some of the same people. And, you know, I've done, I mean, because I'll tell you, if anybody ever walked up to me, because I have a student owns a school in Fort Smith, great dude, didn't get to come in today, but he was on the podcast last, Chris Thompson, and you know, like if somebody came up to me and was like, hey man, I did a seminar at Chris Thompson's school, I'd be like, dude, that's my boy,
awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Cool. Hey, I'm about to compete. Nice to meet you, but whatever, something nice. If you were in just like that, like. Business mode, like you're getting ready to go like compete or do something, it's like, cool man, really nice to meet you, I'm sorry, I'm about to compete, I gotta run. Not just like, oh. Anyway, I'm sure Kyle's a really nice guy.
I'm sure he is. I'm not trying to talk down on him.
Well, funny enough,
even though Cesar Gracie called him a sissy face.
Okay all right, get to that. Funny enough, Janji was an incredible instructor. Really went out of his way to have a nice, relaxed environment and train people. Salo, he put his heart and both those guys put their heart and soul into that school at that time. Like this was like 10 years ago, but that one time he yelled at me for asking him to roll. I was just like, whoa. So people have their like bad days, and I might have just got Kyle on a bad day. I don't know. But the one thing with Rashad, anyway, was he went out of his way to make me feel like an asshole. Not like, dude, I'm in the middle of shit. Like, not right now. Like, you don't know what somebody just went through 30 seconds before you walked up.
Oh, yeah.
They literally got a text from their girlfriend. Haha, I've been sleeping with 6 other dudes. Yeah, and here's photos. And then it's like, hey, I'm a big fan. It's just like,
well, and I get that with Woodley. It's like, dude probably didn't want to be at that booth all day. And he'd probably had to talk to dumbass people like me all day.
Oh, yeah. I really like that time you punched that guy.
Yeah, and what's funny is, like, I was walking up to him, like, being like, dude, how did you get sponsored by our billing company? Like, and I asked him that. I'm like, I've been with these people for, like, 3 years. You think they could give me some free shit? Because I'm getting some sponsorships and blah, blah. And, yeah. And he's like, well, I think it's just because I'm in the UFC. And I was like, all right, dude. So
that explains it.
I'm not even going to ask now.
Yeah.
But it was just, I mean, everything was short, and I get that too. But also at the same time, it's like, I feel like I wouldn't even say I'm a Tyron Woodley fan walking into that conversation, but from a fan perspective, it's like they're not necessarily you and I, but fans, there's an expectation.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, you know, like I'm the reason that you exist. Of people like me, I'm your fan, and I pay the pay-per-views or whatever it is. You know, like I buy your books, I get your music, and so it's like almost an expectation of like, hey man, I bought that pay-per-view you fought in, and you will be nice to me. I saw you knock Chocodile out.
Yeah, I've never had that thought cross my mind. Like you're indebted to me because I'm a fan.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure some people operate in that way. It seems like
I got a great fucking story. This one's fun.
Lay it on me, dude.
All right, I'm gonna pour a drink. So I got this buddy Tom Wozni who does commercials, and he's done a fair amount of commercials for UFC Gym and some other things, and somehow got in the fight industry. He does all type of corporate stuff all over the place. And another guy, Clint. Super tight with Josh Barnett, super tight with like these old school.
Dude, I'm a Barnett fan and an Eric Paulson fan.
Me too. Anyway, so I'm at Tom goes, yo, hey, we're gonna watch fights at this bar in Corona Del Mar. Come show up. It's like, sweet. So I roll down there. I forget who the fight was. Then I was sitting there talking, and funny enough, I was on the Underground the night before, and this was back when Randy the Natural Couture was on top of the world, right? You're making your notes, Randy Couture. So I'm online, and I'm reading this forum, and it was all these super shitty stories about Randy and his public image to me at that point. Like, the guy was a superhero. Like, he was like
Captain America.
Dude, Captain America himself, right? He's just this like wholesome, awesome, badass dude that just works hard, beats the shit out of people. Awesome guy. Always polite, always professional, great dude. I go online and I read like story after story after story after story about how much of a jerk he is.
Fascinating. Caleb trained with Randy, I want to say quite a bit, but several times, and just met him in the airport the other day. Like they had a layover and like sat there and just BS.
What up, Randy?
And then what's his name from Randy's gym ended up committing suicide just a few weeks after that, who Caleb had also trained with. What's his name? Fallis. Uriah Hall's coach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah,
I didn't hear about that. So I'm at I meet up with Tom. We're at the table, and he's like, yo, this is my buddy. Let's call him John. He's like, yo, John, what up? And I'm like, hey, Tom, good to see you guys. We start, the night goes on. I was like, craziest thing ever. Last night, I'm reading these stories that Randy Couture is a complete asshole. And then the guy, John, is like, dude, it's shit's on the internet. Like, I don't know if you can believe what you read on the internet. Yeah. I'm like, I never do, but the craziest thing is like
it's
these were
consensus viewpoint.
It was multiple first-hand accounts, and I was like, apparently, guy's just a big asshole. But like, I don't know, like 1 or 2 stories, maybe they got him on a bad day, but like 10 stories. And John's like, yeah, it's the internet, dude. I wouldn't believe that shit. I was like, I never would, except it was too many stories. And he's like, I'm gonna go grab a drink. Do you guys want one? I was like, yeah, I'll have a Crown. I'll have a Newcastle. I'll have a drink, whatever.
Were the stories like all like, Randy likes to invite me over, and then he takes a shower while I'm there? Like,
no, he just jerked off in a plant. Like he just
won't let me leave. He just masturbates in front of the door.
Yeah, no, he was like, it was. He didn't Weinstein it, but he definitely. I was gonna say Louis C. Yeah, Louis C.K. into the plant. He's like, no, but the stories were like, yeah, I was in the elevator with him. I tried to say hi, and it was just like, whatever. It's nominal stuff. Nothing like bad. Nothing like horrible person. Anyway, so John gets up, goes to the bar, and my buddy Tom looks at me. He's like, you fucking idiot. I'm like, what? And he goes, that's fucking Randy's agent. I was like, oh my God.
Damn it.
I'm like, oh, this is like a classic Jack moment with foot in mouth. And like, I'm just like, oh. Anyway, so I sort of backtracked a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I didn't really believe the stories ever, but it was just weird that there was a lot of them. Anyway, oh, damn, look at that. And then change the subject, try to deflect it. So like 3 weeks later, I got a call from my buddy Tom. Yo, what are you doing tonight at 10? I was like, no plans. He's like, okay, bye. Like, that was weird. And then like 9:30, I get a call. Yo, show up at so-and-so club in Newport Beach. I'm like, all right. I'm like, do I need to wear a suit? And he's like, yeah, dress up, whatever. I show up and I get a VIP table with Randy Couture, his girl, John,
yes.
my buddy Tom, and me. And Randy Couture was a fucking great guy that evening. He's a nice dude, super nice dude.
Was that all set up on the precedent that?
No, but what happened is I somehow that guy, the agent John guy, he was like, he offered me a ride home because like I forget what happened. I didn't have my car. I Ubered there. He's like, man, I'll take you home. No, I'm good. I'll just get a taxi and really appreciate it. He's like, dude, here's my business card. Like, it's nice to meet you, whatever. So the next day I shot him an email. It's like, dude, that was really nice of you to offer me a ride home. Like, wish you the best. And, hopefully I'll run into you at the fights next time with Tom. Just like a thank you. He's like, man, it was really thoughtful of you. And he liked that for whatever reason. One, I offended him, but then I was actually that nice guy. And he's like, I'm going to prove to this guy, Jack, that Randy's not a piece of shit. And he was a rad, super chill, awesome dude.
That's awesome.
It was a great time. Yeah.
And how many people can say they just got to sit down
Yeah,
and eat just a normal dinner with Randy?
It wasn't a dinner. It was like a VIP table at a club with a DJ. It was I forget the name of the club.
Even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bottle service. It was good.
Yeah. It would have been funny if they were trying to troll you. Be like, Randy, be like, hey, Jack, why don't you go dance with my wife? It's like,
I heard you beat people up who look at your wife. Yeah.
But back on that same topic though, you got to know that even in a sport like MMA where it's not, I mean, Randy is such an icon though, but
yeah.
Being a celebrity of anything to where like, did you see Nate Diaz in that Starbucks a while back?
No.
It was, I want to say it was while we were in Vegas.
It was probably that night I hung out with him.
Yeah, you got to tell me that in just a second. But like, he takes a picture and there's like 100 people behind him be like, wow. He's like, I'm just trying to get a coffee.
Yeah, it's nuts.
But ever since those Conor fights, yeah, it's like, it's not a normal life.
I don't want to be famous. I would like to be respected in my field and have notoriety for that. You know what I mean? But for like actual stardom and fame, I don't want that. Like, I don't need that shit. I don't need everybody like just like bound down to me all the time, tell me I'm great.
We are not worthy.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want that.
Yeah, it's got to make it awkward, but I would also say it probably, there's probably a lot of what's going on. That's probably what causes those bad days for people is that they can't ever have like normal interaction. It's like everything is like even with you, for example, it's like I consider you, I know we talk about this and that a lot, but it's never like, hey, tell me that Rickson story.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I want to know the Rickson story, but like I want to know the Jack story. You know what I'm saying? Like it's I'm interested in what you're doing in your life and finance and like what shows you like to watch on TV and what car you drive.
Just like regular shit.
Yeah, whereas like I feel like nobody's ever going to go ask Tyron Woodley right now that's a fan of his or sees him at a booth at a martial arts conference and be like, yeah, dude, what kind of car you drive? Like this is like a normal conference, like like us right now. And like I would say like the first couple of times around you is just like, who's this dude? Mike told me he trains with Rickson. Like you train with Rickson? Like what's that like? Can I touch you? Like, because that was one of the most surreal things about happenstance, just getting to know you is like, man, I have been such a big Rickson Gracie fan for such a long time.
Yeah, me too. But I'll tell you this, one thing that I learned from Rickson, and you'll see his guys do it, is, I think up until now, Rickson never... Like, there's a lot of guys who have trained way, like 100 times more with Rickson than myself. Like, I'm not his right-hand man, not even close. Like, but there's a lot of people who have a lot more time with him. But I'll tell you this, there's a lot of things that I've learned from him, and one of them was how he teaches. He will, if there's 100 students, that's 50 pairs. Let's say it's like 50 students. There's 25 pairs. He will either watch you do the move or have you do it on him until you get it right and then go to the next one. Or he can get you, because some people are a little inept or like clumsy with their bodies or their white belts, and it's like maybe a more complicated move, but he will take the time to either get you to do it right or get you to a level where it's improved from where you were. If you're not going to get it right for the next like 2 years, he's like, he won't stop the class and give you a one-on-one coaching session and neglect everybody. But what he will do is like, no, like, okay, good. This good. Put more. No. Okay. Take your leg, put it there. Good. More good. Okay, good. Okay, do it again. And he'll do it 5, 10, 15 times until you are better. You're either doing it right or you've markedly improved. And then the next person, and then the next person. And so I don't know, like at the class today, I worked with every move I did. I probably omitted to do this, but I tried to work with every single 2 people paired up, and then saw them do it, had them switch, saw them do it. Good. So he really cares about, if you're there to, like, you're paying him to be his student, he's there to teach you. He's not there because he has to be at the gym. He's there to like show up and whatever. Like he's there to teach. So one time, I've only taken one class from Crone, and it was a big class. There was like a shitload of people. He only taught 2 moves because he had to go and work with every single person individually.
I thought about that. I've seen some of the sizes of Rickson and Crone's classes. It's like, and it's almost like Rickson stuff. It looks like a mecca because all those, and with Crone too, they do the guest belts, right? Yeah. So it's like all these guests, like you can clearly see in the lineup, there's a lot of guests there that heard Rickson was teaching class or whatever.
Yeah, and I drove up every week for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm coming
and
to this class.
got to wear your actual belt too.
Yeah.
Because I remember texting you about that, being like, dude, I read this on Jiu-Jitsu Times or whatever.
Ryan Young just did a video about that too. About we have 2 guys. We've actually had like multiple guys join our gym, and they were belted elsewhere, and so we kind of went through: are we going to do that? We're not going to do it. But they don't really know the details of the type of jiu-jitsu we do. We definitely recognize our belt. Like, you are a fucking purple belt. Like you, if you came to my gym, Colin would be like, you are 100% a brown belt. We're not debating that. But you're not my brown belt. So let me just keep an eye on some shit for a little bit. Let me test you out. Let me see if you know the things we do. Huge on self-defense. Huge on these specific sort of criteria that's important to us. Cool. Once you exhibit that or show that you know it, dude, you can wear our brown belt. Until then, you get like a little visitor. It's not even a visitor.
I mean, does Dave have those conversations with? Because I feel like when that's like the way you're laying it out, I have no problems with that, whatsoever.
Right.
And when you explained it to me when I asked you about it, I was like, well, I have no problems with that either.
Yeah, there was this guy. His name's Stefan, Brazilian dude. He was at Crohn's, and I was going up there visiting all the time. And he had the visitor black belt. They're like, dude, we don't have a problem with you having a black belt, but you're not a Rickson Gracie black belt. You're not a Rickson Gracie black belt. And we're not saying you're not a black belt, but we need to know that our core values and our core techniques are in your DNA, and you exhibit them and you do them and represent that. Once we know that, after we've seen that for a minute, fuck yeah, rock the belt, no problem. Like, you're one of, like, and it's not to say that anyone's jiu-jitsu is bad. It's just to say that it's not our jiu-jitsu. We want our stamp in your DNA. And that's my understanding of what was up there. And the first time I went up to Crohn's, they gave me the visitor belt. And I had a moment of like butthurtedness. And then I thought to myself, it's his school, his rules. Like, I don't give a shit.
Exactly.
And so, like, fine. I can either go there or not go there. I don't give a shit. But when they saw the Rickson stamp in my jiu-jitsu, Kama's jiu-jitsu, that stuff, they're like, word, dude. Yeah.
Well, and it is like, that's one thing I love is like your jiu-jitsu. That's why you're here. I probably will have. I mean, I just like, I had a chance to have Flavio. That guy's telling you he's been training with Crone actually. Yeah. Like, he's training at Crone's gym, right? Like, that's where he's training. Mm-hmm. And I got trained with Flavio a few years ago, and guy's got an incredible story. Super nice guy, and like, I had him in a couple weeks ago, but like, I'll probably have you in again in 2018 if possible, or very first of 2019, go train with you at Eric's whenever he gets you booked in. But it's like, I don't know. I could have some other people in and have looked at it, and it's just like, I can get that. It's like, I can get that jiu-jitsu on YouTube, mm-hmm. to not sound like, to not devalue anyone, but it's like, we live in such a time where it's like I can have access to a lot of information. Yeah. That's one thing. It's like Rickson's techniques are like safeguarded. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for better or worse, it is. And, you know, it's funny. The only reason I got a little blip of notoriety is because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to talk about it. Because I started seeing online people, specifically on the underground, just start like trashing him, and nobody's like, Henry Akins doesn't want to go on the internet on those forums, just because all he gets is just like bombarded with like bad news and negative comments and negative energy and all that stuff. And I kind of got sick and tired of it. And I'm not like anywhere near the perfect representative at all for that jiu-jitsu. But I'm like, you know what? I have personal integrity. I'm going to stand up for it. I'm going to speak my mind. And I'm not being offensive, but I'm like, yeah, I'll be vocal about some stuff and the principles and that stuff. And so then, I kind of got people online. Someone created there was like 100,000 views on this one thread, and then Budo Videos was like, yeah, come talk about it. Like, what is invisible? But invisible today Invisible Jiu-Jitsu today was a perfect example. We were doing that step over thing where you step over the mount, and I could knock you over until you shifted
I didn't
the weight
understand
from
what you're
here
saying about the foot and the knee
to here
for a minute, and then I was like, "Oh, your foot or knee on the mat first," and that changed everything. Like once I got to step out and see it 3-dimensionally, I was like, what?
Yeah, and that's the thing is like sometimes hard to teach someone when you don't have an extra body there. I'm like, look, I'm going to do it to him. Let me show you what's happening. So when sometimes in a private lesson, it's good to have an extra body there.
That's why I was actually trying to. That's the number one thing I was telling people on these splits. Which on Bob
good.
tomorrow, that dude's a really good friend of mine, and Caleb's too. If you want a demo on me,
be there. Yeah, for sure.
He's such a good dude. He would be fine with that.
But and then also Dring today, the way that he phrased it, that got you to understand it. Like he was like, no, sink into blah. But it's where you distributed your weight and you went heavy in that one spot. You can't pick that up from the outside. So sometimes explaining a technique, you gotta really feel it as opposed to have someone articulate words at you about it. You know what I mean?
It's another way,
There's like a kinetic learning. It's like sometimes that's the better way to learn it is instead of vocal or it's like the kinetic.
You ever heard of Gardner's? I tell people about this periodically. Gardner's multiple intelligences. Mm-mm. It's a theory on education. They teach it to people who are going to teach like high school and elementary about how people learn. Mm-hmm. And I'm fascinated by it. Like Dring and I had a big conversation yesterday about methods, training methodology, or not necessarily training methodologies, teaching methodologies.
Yeah.
And because I'm going through that right now with this history class I'm teaching at the college. And some people are going to be auditory, some people are going to be visual, some people are going to be kinesthetic. Yep. But it doesn't matter what of the 7 intelligences you fall in, logical, jiu-jitsu is all of them. Yeah. Like it literally, I have to put my hand on it. Mm-hmm. I have to hear it. I have to see it. I have to understand it in a rational way. Mm-hmm. Like you were saying, it's logic. I created an argument that you cannot refute. Mm-hmm. And for like, I when I took logic, people always hear argument and they're like, think we're like, oh, Jack.
No, you're wrong. No, I'm taller than you. I don't care what the ruler says. Yeah.
And it's not that. It's like you presented the information in such a way that it's in like a better word, maybe undeniable. Yeah. It's like, well, I can't do it. I know those 3 escapes to the Americana, but you're telling me if you do it that way, I can't do any of them. And if I do it this way, you can't scratch me in the eye. Right. I was thinking about that. That was a little jewel from the last seminar. It's like, just put your face right here. And they can't, when Cora was doing that, I was like, you better hide your face. Cause I've been teaching that ever since you showed it. Because at the Rickson seminar, he was like, Remember just hit that dude in the balls? Yeah. but there was when he was doing some different things, he would like swipe at the groin and I can't reach it. I can't get you in the eyes. Right. I can't do these fouls. Yeah. And that is fascinating to me, but you definitely appealed to every learning style in the room today.
Well, and I learned that from Rickson. I've taken courses on study, and one of the first obstacle to learning is thinking that you know all there is to know about it. So you come in and you're like, dude, I fucking learned the armbar 1,000 times. Like, dude, I'm an MMA fighter, like blah. And then to be shown somehow that you either have to come in with the mindset, okay, I don't know all there is to know about it, and recognize when you come in with the arrogance, like we talked about earlier, like I came in with arrogance and prejudice when I met those kids, and I realized like, oh, that's prejudice. That's not a good thing.
Did you have a mentor that you like back on that? I mean, just Are you naturally that way? You've always been that way? Did you have a mentor at some point in business or life that was like, Jack, you're an asshole. You need to be working on these things?
I think all of my closest friends are all I'm just a complete dick. Yeah, so I have lots and lots and lots of faults. But that being said, there are times where I do have a mirror and I'm like, yeah, you know what? That was prejudice. Like, okay, let me approach this differently. But with regards to learning, sometimes I'm like, dude, I've fucking done this before. Like, actually with Rickson, he's like, okay, we're gonna do headlock escapes again. I'm like, damn it. I don't want to learn about headlock escapes. I want to learn shit I've never seen before. And then he shows this detail, and I was like, whoa.
I'm so glad we're doing headlock escapes.
Like, that was different. That I never said, so.
It is weird. I've gone through that. I've been at seminars, and it's almost like that when you're around the same instructor a lot. Like with Mr. Dring, it's like, oh, I've heard that story. Mm-hmm. But then, like,
it's in a different context.
You have to keep paying attention because he is dropping nuggets of.
That's the thing, is they aren't saying it because it's their, like Dring, Hicks. They're not saying it because it's their trite story and they just have to say it because it's funny, or like Howder, They're saying it because they've been around so fucking long and they learned that's the important part. And so if they're stressing that thing, it's probably important. So get over your own arrogance and this idea that you already know that. Yeah, I heard the story. I got it. Because with that, you just screened out 10 facts or something that could be more important. I don't know, have more meaning later. But I did want to, when you go in knowing a move and then Rickson shuts you down, instantly you know that you actually don't know the move.
Which is actually hard to face. Like the first few times, because whether you got this from Rickson or whatever, I get it from you. Mm-hmm. Because I guess after today, I've maybe done training in California.
Okay, 6.
2 at Eric's. So, and then just train at your house a few times, a couple of times. Yeah. But it's like today you're just showing stuff and like all we're doing was side control, like side position, side mount for people that don't do jiu-jitsu and don't know what we're talking about. And I'm just like, man, I never even want to, like, I'm 4-tip brown belt, the talk around is that myself and a couple other people are probably getting promoted black belt in a couple of months, which may or may not happen, and I'll be fine if it didn't happen after today. Because it's humbling, but it's also like the first inkling is that I don't think anybody likes the way that feels initially.
Right.
But I can tell you this through the experience of like having left, getting like last time we got to hang out in Vegas for the Rickson seminar, and I got to do that little 1-hour seminar he did the next day, which is on the internet.
Yeah.
I went back to the gym, and I sat down and I was like, This is everything I can remember that I learned from Jack. Mm-hmm. These are the seminars. Fortunately, before that Rickson seminar, we did the Memphis one like 3 weeks before, and he covered some of the same techniques, which was great. But I know you were like, dude, sorry, and I'm like,
no, I want that. Yeah,
then what was it? The Rickson Gracie Cup. That seminar.
He
covered a couple of the same techniques, but there was also other techniques that were
LinkedIn,
interspersed or like a different way of explaining it. And through the process of just like going back to the gym and showing it to my guys that thought, like the guy there in the blue gi today, Jeff Woods, older guy, he's a professor, he's 46 years old, and he likes Spider Guard and like flashier, sportier stuff, but like we started just doing like that flavor, like, hey, somebody pulls your head down, you just drop to your knee and you reposture, and just some stuff, the self-defense, like somebody grabs you behind, and I just really entered a period where for like 6 months that's all we did, and everybody was so inspired, like, oh, in the Americana, like, oh, I've never seen it that way, and and through the process of me doing that, I got better. Whereas I felt like a total child, and then just calling you and talking about it, and then some of the greatest feelings of gratitude I had, or like if I would call you or text you or whatever, would be like I would go to the gym and just have a day where like I would see somebody like Jeff Woods or somebody have a light bulb go off, or like multiple people were leaving that day being like, that have trained with me for, Jeff Woods is my longest student next to Brandon Motley. I have 3 brown belts, and Brandon trained with me when he and I were both students at Caleb's gym in Inferno before he moved to Northwest Arkansas. So, but I'd been training there a couple of years before Brandon started training. And then after Caleb closed down and moved to North Arkansas, Brandon moved, and he and I kept going to Russellville, and Jeff Woods was like my first guy.
Yeah.
So for like Woods is the first guy that's like, he's never really been influenced by anybody else other than me. So, and he's a super intellectual dude. This dude's about to publish his 3rd book, dean of like the Arts and Humanities College, which is like 7 departments.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's just and a mentor to me. Like I remember one time we were at Front Street, which you and I have been together a couple of times, a little bar, and this girl came up and was like, "Are you Jeff Woods' son?" And I was like, yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
But no, you know, because I worked for him for the history department, and dude's a historian, and like, I do history too. He's been a major influence on me. But when that dude after class comes up to me and is like, "That stuff's different."
Yeah.
Like, what is it about that? Like, different. I know that you've taught me that move 3 times over the last 5 years. What have you been doing?
You know what would be really interesting for me is I would love to hear a guy of that intellect and knowledge, and you know, probably self-reflection and the ability to articulate. I would love to hear what he figure out is different. I would love to hear it, because that's I just, most of my jiu-jitsu is Pedro Sauer up to blue belt, which is, you know, not
I'm a huge Pedro fan.
Yeah,
at the Rickson seminar, only other dude I took a picture with.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This because like Fabio Santos had something else going on, but I was like, I am not worthy, Pedro Sauer. Oh my God, I love your videos.
I started with him, so he was like a 5th, like well, let's call it a 10th. I got a 10th of my jiu-jitsu from him. Maybe the most that I actually absorbed from Pedro Sauer was not technique, but it was just philosophy, because he has a very Elio Gracie type philosophy, and not injure and use technique and not muscle.
How old is Pedro Sauer now?
I don't know. He's probably
like
up there,
60,
like
right?
He's probably like 60, like Rickson, something like that. But from him, I absorbed the mindset more. But technique wise, definitely David Kama, Rickson. I've had the most jiu-jitsu learning from Dave Kama, more from Rickson, and then notably in there would be Henry Akins. But I've spent more time with Rickson and Kama than I had Akins. But, you know, I'm trying to think like who else. Oh, and, you know, 6 months with Salo and Janji. But they were consistently teaching a lot. So those are the 4 primary people in my jiu-jitsu career. I lost my train of thought. I was kind of like doing.
Well, we're talking about what sets your style of jiu-jitsu or Rickson style, or however you want to call it. Because I have such limited experience with Rickson, like 2 little bitty seminars, 4 total hours, which made a profound impact on my life.
Well, the thing about, I had a point, and I'll somehow remember it and get back to it, but most of my jiu-jitsu is from that very, very minute core group of people, 4 people. Mostly Kama, Rickson, a little bit Akins, a little bit of Salo. Salo and Janji, / 50-50. So that's kind of all I know. And so this dude, I don't know what he knows and doesn't know. And so when he gets shown that stuff, I don't know what his take is on it. So I'd be really interested to hear his articulate description of why that's different. For him to just go like, that is different, I don't know why, I would like to hear about it.
Yeah, he would definitely be open to talking to you, because I felt like he today was one of the guys at the seminar that was really engaged. He brought up some stuff, and he's one of the most analytical thinkers.
Yeah, it's cool.
I know. Like, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have some really good mentors, and unfortunately, a couple of them passed away in the last few years. Just different history mentors, and I had a professor that passed away about 6 months ago that was one of those guys that just makes a big impact on you.
Yeah.
You know? And you took him for as many classes as you could while he was there. He actually retired while I was in school, and I got to see him a few times after he retired. But people that like their approach, like Jeff Wood's approach is inspiring. Like he's very like this dude be lecturing in college, and like he would get to that point where he like, I need to articulate this a little more profoundly. So instead of stumbling around to find the words, he would be like,
yeah, trying to find the true meaning, and then like,
he would just lay it on you. Like there was, and I noticed myself because I just thought back to this last couple weeks because I actually kind of suck at lecturing.
You'll get better.
I just found it out. I was like, damn, I'm saying all these stupid sentences that don't make sense. Like I'm reading the notes and then I'm making jokes about Harry Potter and turn on the projector for me. But it is weird how because I've only done it like I have only had like 5 lectures so far this semester, but like how you just get into like tripping around all over your own words, be like, what did I just?
You know, it's funny. You just reminded me. There was a scene. It was a Mel Gibson movie, and I don't know the movie, but it was at Civil War type time. But there was you could
Patriot, the Patriot maybe.
It might have been the Patriot. I remember one scene he was trying to make this chair and it had to weigh.
Oh, yes.
And he kept falling. It was breaking and breaking.
Yeah.
But one thing I remembered from that was his son, or one of his children, who was being homeschooled at the time, wrote an article and he's like, good, but it's too wordy. Do it again. Good, too much words. Do it again. Get it down to 100 words. And I remember that, and it was really funny. One night, I was trying to tell my mom, I was like, every now and again, like my mom is the sweetest sweetheart of all fucking human beings on earth. She's a bad ass, but the sweetest person. Like Jack, like she raised these animals, wild animals. Quinn, me, Simon, Sally. We're just like nuts, and she's like, oh, honey, that's good, but let's go this way. And just like kept us all out of trouble and just somehow kept our lives in line and just gently, she never bitch slapped us once, but she just kind of gently steered the ship that way, gently this way. And last year, maybe it was earlier this year, sometime last year, and I wanted to send her a text. I'm like, Mom, like you're an incredible person, and it was just so long-winded. And then I look back, I'm like, that's not even go through on one text. I'm like, all right, let me figure this out. Anyway, and I got all of my points. There's like 4 points that I was trying to communicate. Yeah. I'm like, Mom, you're the most subtle, gentle beast I've ever met. And then I was like, but I just kind of like condensed this paragraph into like,
That's what you just explained. I've been trying to explain to my history class about writing history versus writing English.
Yeah, right. In English, they probably embrace the words and the articulation.
It's like, hey, I need you to fluff this up a little bit more. Be more descriptive. Like, tell me what it felt like.
Yeah.
I had to tell that to him because I was like, hey, look, when I started writing history, I showed up and I was good, I felt like, at writing English, which helped me. Mm-hmm. But
you could at least write.
Yeah, I would do this sort of a big, long 3-line sentence with a comma or,
semicolons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Jeff Woods taught me that I could do that in less.
Yeah.
Like, that's the guy that taught me that.
Yeah.
So just segue off to him. And even his books. Like, I got to, in graduate school, I did a presentation on both of his books. He wrote a book called Black Struggle, Red Scare, and a book about Bertrand Russell. I can't remember the name of it, but it's this dude that was around during LBJ's era, which I need to break that book back out. It's on my table in there because it's 50 years since 1968. And I've been kind of plugging it on other podcasts that I do, but I'm going to do these solo sort of hardcore history type lectures on the podcast called History Unraveled. And 1968 is the first series I'm doing. Like, I want to do these series, like history of conspiracies, history of drugs, like things that are like cool topics, but they don't get a lot of lip service in the historical community. Like, I would like to do one on, but they do elsewhere. Like, Louis Theroux has done a documentary on Westboro Baptist Church, Scientology, and all of these fascinating topics that would be great history topics as well, and in 50 years they will be history topics.
Sure, right.
Just like we're talking about Timothy Leary in the 60s now, we'll be talking about L. Ron Hubbard, even though he's around then. But like the impact of what Scientology went to is just too recent.
Yeah, it's not history yet. It's like current events.
We're still revising
affairs.
it. We're still revising it, and the process of revisionism is unique and good and bad all at the same time. And it's kind of like on the people that are doing the sorting all of it out. Like, that's why any questions I ask you about history is just trying to, or about Rickson, is trying to figure out how it fits into the historical context of jiu-jitsu for me.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. There's a couple things back on teaching and learning, but that having someone get over the barrier of thinking that they know all there is to know about it. You know, like, I won a world champion, I know all there is about jiu-jitsu. And like, well, maybe not. You know, maybe you could learn this better, maybe you could learn that better. So it's good to get knocked off your pedestal every now and again. And the School of Hard Knocks is a fucking fantastic school.
It's taught me a lot.
You get in there, you embroil with life, you come out, you're like, whew, you dust yourself off and like, where did I go wrong? And then you sort it out, you know what I mean? And so when you have a lifetime of School of Hard Knocks, you come up with more efficient ways. Ideally, you do. Sometimes you just get beaten down, you give up, and you go into apathy, and you walk away, and you quit. But sometimes you can get in there, entangle with life, you get out, or entangle with that situation, and you look back like, man, why did that guy escape that armbar? Everyone escapes my armbar. Maybe I pinch here. Maybe it's weight there. Maybe I change the angle. And then you figure it out, and you get better and better and better. And then you can start to become more impervious. And so that's like that's one thing I learned from Rickson, is that he went in with the School of Hard Knocks, and he learned it and he figured it out.
Well, you said that too. Like, we talked about last night, people talking shit about things that Rickson says, not necessarily Rickson, because I feel like people like respect him, other than recently with some controversial, and I think that's more to do with the zeitgeist and the spirit of the times about what's going on with this.
Yeah, like Me Too, and yeah, all these other.
Do you know anything about McCarthyism?
No.
So McCarthy was a senator during what in history is known as the Second Red Scare. Mm-hmm. And it was a period of time where I would say things like, Jack, you're a communist. And because I just said that, your life is over.
Right.
Like, Kevin Spacey's life is over. Mm-hmm. And it probably should be. But the unfortunate thing, and I say that based off of me perceiving the things that came out about him, and me knowing someone personally that's from Hollywood that now lives in Russellville that is related to a very, 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 very famous producer. I'm trying to have this guy on the podcast. It's actually Jerry Bruckheimer's nephew. And he's not going to tell the story on the podcast, but he's had some interactions with Kevin Spacey, and
a little bit creepy.
Yeah. Let's just say, like, I have no reason to question that the vast majority of what people are saying about him is absolute truth. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that's going on so much. Like, the thing that, and I know a lot of guys are saying this, and I just think that this Olympic doctor is a way better case study for us to leech onto than Ashley Judd. It's like, you didn't have to go to dude's hotel room.
Right.
And I'm not trying to stir up any controversy about that.
You will. I'm gonna hashtag this. Like, you're for a rapist.
Listen to what this asshole has to say about Ashley Judd. But it's like, there's inappropriate, and there's you choosing not to go to that dude's hotel room.
Right.
And and you get a Grammy as a result, and then years and years later, and I do think that there's inappropriate stuff that goes on that needs to be dealt with, but I think that some innocent people in this culture are going to get their lives ruined, like Kevin Spacey. They didn't do anything wrong, and that's what I'm worried about based off the historical past of this McCarthyism. These people, the Screen Actors Guild. Like, there's a movie just came out with the dude that played Walter White, Bryan Cranston, who's in that James Franco movie, which was hilarious. Me too. And that dude was just in a movie called Trumbo. It's about Dalton Trumbo. Mm-hmm. And it's a dude that got called a communist. And, like, his career ended.
Yeah.
All of these actors' careers ended. And it was all because the Soviet Union and China had the bomb.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that when you come to the topic of public relations, it's very difficult to prove a negative. Prove to me you are not a drug dealer.
Well, media
I don't have crack in my car, but that doesn't mean you haven't hit it somewhere else. So prove to me you're not a drug dealer. Well, my buddy's in the police department. Yeah, so was Walter White's. Okay, prove to me that you're not. And you're like, well, I'm not. Did I ever try to sell you drugs? But, like, no, you know what? I'd rat on you. Well, so prove to me that you're not. it's hard to prove a negative.
Well, yeah, let's liken back a little bit earlier. Salem witch trials, same thing. And it's like, yeah, did some
You're
people that were doing some crazy ass witch shit?
You're a witch. So let's put you on a long pole in a chair. If you float, you're a witch.
You ever
if you
see
drown,
that movie The Crucible with Daniel Day-Lewis and Winona Ryder?
No, but that sounds awesome.
I mean, it's actually a stressful ass, anxious movie. I'm just like, oh fuck, oh man, oh shit, you know. And like in the very end, like, I'm not gonna spoil it. Just watch it. It's a worthy one-time watch.
It's got Daniel Day-Lewis in it, and I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah,
and it's got Winona. I will watch it.
It's kind of like watching that show. I don't know if you ever watched this show. I only watched the first couple of seasons, but Wilfred, about the dog.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
Or about the man. And
yeah.
But it's just like, dude, Cora could not watch that show because she'd be like, oh no, oh, he's involved in that. Oh no, I can't believe. I mean, and it does. It makes you anxious. And I've heard multiple people say that about the show Wilfred. But
okay, we're going now on like 4 open topics. But you know what show I can't watch is The fucking Office.
I've tried to get into it so many times and I can't.
The only way I can do it is if I have like 3 people there that love the show and they're all laughing. I'm like, okay, cool. It's like keeping me focused. But that shitty shake cam and that fucking one, like, and it's also just so painful to watch someone so fucking idiotic. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh man, just like, okay. But I want to. Do you mind if I go back? I have like 3 mental
Dude, you
tabs.
just do whatever you want, bro.
Don't say that, because I'm gonna get naked and run through that door again. I mean,
hey, it'll be off camera. Okay. We'll just like, I'll turn up the amp there, and we'll get the quality audio. We're just here to have a good time, man.
All right, cool. I wanted to go back to learning and teaching styles, because that was one. There was a couple of points about that I never got to articulate. The first obstacle of learning is thinking that you know there all is to know about it. And then, man, I had a couple of points that I wanted to say on that, but it was like probably 15 minutes ago. But just about learning styles and teaching and things like that. You know, the reason, and I mentioned this today in the class, like everyone has an opinion about a technique, and it doesn't mean those opinions are wrong. But when you boil down to the nuts and the bolts about learning and teaching, history is a different thing. History is now you can, I am welcome to correct it on this, but history is more of a theoretical subject. Jiu-Jitsu is a practical subject. Physics is a practical subject. Engineering is a practical, like, read this, build a freaking bridge. Learn an armbar, go armbar that guy. History, teach other people about history. Not like, you're not going to do history.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I totally agree. I think we segued way off this. What got me, the process of historical revision is probably what waters down jiu-jitsu. So like Genghis Khan, for example, I've been talking about this in my class. Like, if you haven't ever listened to the podcast Wrath of the Khans by Dan Carlin, Hardcore History, check it out.
Okay. I don't read much. I don't
either. So the audio, but this is an audio podcast. Okay. So he just like, and he is so good. He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast a couple of times just talking. But he's like, hey, there are these people that are historical arsonists. They're creative destroyers, and they're necessary. But go pick up a book like this, or like my Western Civ textbook, which sits in that bag next to the table, which I'm using to draw a minimal amount of lecture notes out of, might I add.
Okay.
Because they'll say things like, Genghis Khan invaded Western China. And then you'll go do some research, and you'll be like, Genghis Khan invaded Western China and killed 5 million people, and his troopers raped 7-year-old girls in front of their neighbors in the town square. And they died. And they were consummating their marriage because that 7-year-old was their wife. Like, when you say things like that, it's like the process of historical revision is what got it in the textbook the way it is, which includes none of that shit. So like, I feel that way about your jiu-jitsu. Is like the process of revision of jiu-jitsu is in learning it. It kind of dumbed it down to the point. It's like, yeah, you know, guard. This is guard. Just work on that, you know. But it's like the little nuances and the caveats and how to actually learn how to do the guard. Like, for example, just a plug on your posture. Like, you have a video on top and bottom. You have the posture breaking. You have the posture creating. That is unlike anything I've ever seen or done. Like, I didn't learn posture and guard, which I've been taught since fucking white belt until I was like a purple brown belt.
Yeah.
I was like purple belt when I found out about it, and it was brown belt by the time I was like,
yeah,
I can do this.
Yeah. Well, the you got what's important in texts, in study, not necessarily history, and because that's more of a, I don't know much about history, and I don't know much about teaching history, and I don't know about learning history, but in other subjects, you can create examinations, because I'm studying for what's called a Series 65, this financial license, and the exam questions are going to be, okay, you have this definition of an investment advisor, or you have an investment company. Two separate things. They're not even close. But let's say this word investment advisor. It was defined in the Investment Advisor Act of 1940, and it goes A, B, C, D, E. That was a federal definition. But then to make things quote unquote simpler, there is a federal act that dictates how states can define it, and it's A, B, C, D, but E is excluded. Federal Act defined A, B, C, D, E as an investment advisor. State Act, that. Then there was the 1934 Act, and there's also the 1933 Act, and then there's also it goes on. On my examination, what I'm going to take probably in 2 weeks.
It sounds like you're taking a history test, bro.
Okay, it's similar, but when I take this test, they go, here's the definition of an investment advisor. A, B, C, D. Is that the 33 Act, the 34 Act? Is that the...
Oh, damn.
Is that the USA Act, or is that the 1940 Act of blah, blah, blah? I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with doing my fucking job? You want to put 300...
Can we talk about 2018? I mean, what's it mean now?
Well, yeah, but here's the thing is like, what does that have to do with Brian wants to put $300 a month aside in this investment? Why does... I know what an investment advisor is. What does that fucking date... Sorry, I'm passionate about it now.
No, we can totally say fuck on the podcast.
Fuck. What does the date really have to do with if I'm going to ruin your life by putting you in bad investments or good ones? It doesn't matter. So when you examine someone on a subject, truly to educate them, not to indoctrinate, not to teach, but truly get an education about a subject, you need the basic rules, the axioms, the fundamental truths, the maxims, like these general sayings that are true about applying stuff. You need how it's done and why it's done, and the doing this details. Like, so if I'm going to teach you an armbar, I don't need to say when the first armbar, like I'm not, to get you your fucking black belt, I'm like, when was the first time, what year and month was Elio Gracie?
Judo does that, bro, and it drives me insane, and I was going to require that of my people for a minute, and then I was like, no, fuck this.
But what's important? Look, weight distribution, posture, timing, when you should do that move or when you should do this move. So when your face is being crushed, it's actually easier to bring them over that way. And when their weight's here, it's easier to do the other one. So I'm not going to test you on all this theoretical bullshit. What I'm going to test you on is like, what's important about that move? Here's the important thing is like, if you have all this slack here, it's not going to work. Take the slack out. Okay, good. When do you do the move? Well, you would do it in this circumstance. Good. Would you do it if they're this? No. Great. Okay, good. Do it and tell me how you're doing it. Boom. And then I would check out your actual physical application of it. Those are the things that are important. And if I teach that way, even in an academic class, I'm going to create students who can absorb, learn the knowledge, and then take it in their life and actually execute it and build a fucking bridge or make a this or do a thing. You know what I mean? So you have rules of business. I'm not going to have you memorize 87 points, 30 of which are like useless. I'm going to say, what are the most important points about blah? So in personal finance, what's the most important things about blah? Well, man, I got to know their budget. I got to know that. Those are the important things. Good. When the tax law changed and what date, I don't give a shit. Unless I'm a tax attorney and I have to go argue those things, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to help you save money for retirement. So I just need like the basic rules, the axioms, the stable like data that don't change, or they're self-evident truths, you know, like supply and demand, something like that. Boom, boom, boom. And I can go through these main things, and then I can create a student who can actually take the information and apply it. So when I teach jiu-jitsu, and I learned this through study courses that I've taken, but then I watch the way Rickson teaches, and it's just not his opinion. Here's 17 ways to do it. Figure out which one's the best. He's like, no, this is what's important about the move. If you do that, you're really susceptible of falling over that way. Arm lock me.
Which is irrefutable.
Right. And that's an axiom. It's a self-evident truth that if you are 95% overcommitted weight-wise that way, I can push you over with the finger.
You blew my mind with the technical mount stuff today.
Oh, really?
I would have loved to have been which I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in any lunch with Rickson or whatever. But like him, like he cracks me up the way he is. Oh, good job, Jake. You're such a nice guy. You know, oh, good job, Rickson. You're so good. Like he just makes a joke. But I could just picture that dude sitting up and looking at you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's funny. That technical mount weight distribution, I showed 3 escapes, all this way, this way, this way, this way, because the guy's weight wasn't. So look, let's put it this way. You have a technique. You do an arm bar 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can get a guy to memorize this pattern, this pattern, this pattern. But there's no true understanding of it. So what makes that pattern truly work is their posture and their weight distribution. So if you filter every technique through, where is my weight weak? Where is it distributed? Is my posture good or broken? You can now get just those 2 concepts. You can apply that to everything you've ever learned in jiu-jitsu and make everyone better. Like I don't actually have the brain power for that. I just rely on guys that are better than me to like, he's like, look, here's what I figured out about the weight and posture. And I'm like, oh, thanks. Okay, I'm going to teach that now. You know what I mean? I'm not necessarily in the mode where I'm making up new moves, but those guys are. But I could make new moves because I'm now getting to the point where I'm really sort of like understanding that essence, and I can check weight distribution and posture.
And I would have to run some things by you, but these things that they're mentioning, pressure or
well, I had a guy the other day. Hold on, I just want to say
go ahead.
I'm not to the point of inventing shit, but when people bring me shit, I had my Jason Friesen, fucking sick ass brown belt, good guy, dude. He's like, bro, I did this and that, boom, and he's like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, you're about to crack my ribs, and he's like, I know, right? I'm like, cool, don't move, bang, and I rolled him over, and he's like, wait, let's do that again. I'm like, cool, and I'm like, it's so much pressure into this. I'm like, but you're overcommitted, bang, and I just reversed him. And anyway, I can't. That guy's actually really good at inventing moves. Like I've showed him a couple things.
I've ran into people like that.
Yeah, no, he comes back and he's like, dude, I took what you showed me and look at these things. I'm like, every one of those is sick. Except for, wait, do that one again and I can maybe find a hole in it. But he's got this inventive mind that's good. But anyway, yeah, so I'm not at the point where I'm going to invent new jiu-jitsu. But I do understand the principles where I can at least fact check. Yeah, sure. Fact check jiu-jitsu to a degree. And then I'll probably bring it to Rickson and then he'll tell me I'm wrong. Because he's...
Which is this process of revision, man.
Yeah. Right.
You know, that's what I'm doing with you in a big way. I mean, it's just like, hey, is this valid? And that's what I was mentioning a second ago is like, there's things that I've learned from you or from the Rickson seminar, which were things that illustrations of the same concepts, like which I'd say the biggest principles that I have tapped into is distribution of weight, connection, and the middle. Yeah, the middle is the biggest one for me. That's like, but connection, I'm always like, and it's like like a lot of times like you mentioned this today or Dring did one. It's like sometimes I'm just paying lip service to that idea because you're showing that one today with the shoulder that I kept having a hard time with. I was just like previously before you come in here was just using my arm for that. I gotta connect. You gotta connect. Yeah. I was doing my arm and I was connecting my arm to their body instead of my shoulder. And that changed that escape for me. And that was like, in that moment, I was like, I'm nothing.
Yeah, and that's the thing is
which is good. How am I ever going to get better if I don't feel like I'm nothing?
Right. Yeah, well, you got to get knocked off your pedestal and not think you know all there is to know about it. But, you know, and I think that. And then, you know, it's funny. I got invited to this group 3 weeks ago. AJ White is his name.
I thought you were going to say Agrazam or Agrazam.
Agrazam?
Whatever the hell his name is.
You know what? I don't like his online marketing persona, but I've met him 15, 20 times. We've hung out a couple times. He's always been really nice to me.
I couldn't believe how humble acting he was against Gordon Ryan's little brother at ADCC. I know that he's been a lot of controversial shit, but he the 16-year-old kid, and he raised his hand, and it was just very.
That's cool. I didn't.
Go watch that video if you get a chance. But the way he was with that kid, because I mean that's cool. 16 years old. Yeah, I mean he's a kid to me.
Yeah, right.
That changed my opinion of him.
Well, I'm not gonna vouch for him or talk shit about him, but I'll just tell you this. Funny story. My brother lives in Florida. There's this guy Adriana de Limo. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on the exact pronunciation. He's a 4th or 5th degree Gracie Baja guy. Old school as fuck. Adriana de Lima. He's got a black belt in Chicago. You might know him. I got this problem remembering names all the time.
I have this problem remembering a lot of shit.
Falco Jiu-Jitsu. He just took...
I've heard that name.
Silver at No-Gi Pan Ams. Fucking rad, dude. Anyway, there's all these guys in Clearwater, Florida, because that jiu-jitsu school's been there like 30 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
There's like 25, 30 black belts in that area from De Lima. Anyway, so I was there because my brother lives in that area, and that school was 2 blocks from my brother's house. And I literally took one of those penny board skateboards and would skateboard down and go train jiu-jitsu, and he would just welcome me to the academy and like, yeah, go ahead and train, brother. And do you know Aesopian, Matt Kirtley?
I've heard of like that's a unique fucking name. So
Aesopian, he's a black belt under De Lima, but he's like super huge on Reddit, and also just a really technical, awesome black belt. But anyway, I know a couple of those dudes, so I've known them for a long ass time. My buddy John trains down there; he's one of the main instructors. But I went in there, and then AJ was in the class, and that's how I met him. And he was like, yeah, hey, what's up, dude? And it was like super cool. And I ran into him at a casino, and he was super cool. And then I saw him at EBI. He was super cool. So it's not like we're friends.
I forgot you went to the EBI more than a couple of times. Right? You've been at Metamoris too, right?
I've never seen a live Metamoris.
Okay, I couldn't remember if you went, but awesome on going to the EBI. I would love to go to the EBI.
Yeah, I've got like 3 of them. My buddy Eddie and my other buddy Secor competed there.
Was it Eddie Fivey?
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's a fucking great dude.
You introduced me to him at the seminar, but that dude's his name is out there. I keep running into. I don't.
He's now on Hickson's Global Jiu-Jitsu.
It's on the board, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it's the board, but he is part of it. He's a member. But that guy is a fascinating dude. High-level student of jiu-jitsu, high-level student of life, and just a really great human being. Like I just genuinely admire that dude. But yeah, he's got a school up there in New York, and he's got guys in the UFC it's show anyway. He's got guys in not Metamoris, but the other fight organ.
Fight to win.
Strikeforce.
Strikeforce.
Yeah, other things.
Bellator.
Yeah.
Strikeforce with the same guy. Okay, real quick segue. I've been proliferating this concept. I think the Fertitta brothers own Bellator.
They probably do.
Like, why?
You were saying that the other day.
Scott Coker
is like crazy conspiracy theory.
And the UFC sucks now in terms of like if you were a fan of like GSP and shit 5 years ago, and you look at GSP fight right now, you're like, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
You know, or like just Forrest Griffin, Stephen Bonner. Shit is not the same. It's like, no, you cannot wear that sponsor shirt. You will wear the Reebok shirt, and that is it. Just some of the changes they made, like the uniforms or Reebok deal, the USADA situation, which I'm not against, but I don't think you can regulate steroids. I do not think you can regulate steroids. People like Lance Armstrong are getting blood transfusions. I guarantee you that's what John Jones is doing. And I don't believe that you can regulate steroids. We talk about the Olympics.
Do you hear about this thing that there's these like old dudes that will get blood transfusions from like 25-year-olds? And so they get this like
Keith Richards from
young blood.
The Rolling Stones are called. They actually have a term for those people: blood bitches.
Yeah, you're my blood bottom bitch. What's up? Give me those quarts.
Yeah, but so I've heard
this bitch is worth like 8 quarts. Yeah,
keeps you young, but also I've heard Keith Richards does it for this reason, and this is hearsay or conspiracy or whatever, but that Keith Richards, if you watch interviews of him in like the 70s or 80s on YouTube, that motherfucker is geetered out of his mind.
Yeah, but what about Keanu Reeves? That guy has never aged.
I know, that's wild too. That you're not the only person. My buddy Jesse,
he's got like 9 blood bitches.
But Keith Richards was super addicted to heroin in the 70s and 80s. And
his leather face. It's like him and
teeth
Iggy
are
Pop.
coming out.
Yeah, kind of like look. Yeah.
So the rumor is that Keith Richards never got off heroin.
Mm-hmm.
Never. And that when you go, so he'll go on these little mini leg tours, or the Rolling Stones will do their 978th tour together, which I hear is still fucking awesome.
Dude, I would go see that shit.
I would too. I'd
go see
I've heard
Cher,
their live
dude.
show is
like, there's some people that are just fucking made of music. Yeah, I'd go see that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the experiences I dig. I mean, I go see a lot of concerts. And
What's his name? Pinball Wizard?
Oh, who is the Pinball Wizard?
Fucking Matumba. Oh, like, Elton John.
Yeah, okay, yeah, he's playing in Arkansas really soon, actually.
Yeah, that's funny. There's some fucking mega superstars that, like, even though I don't like that style of music, they're so iconic and so good at what they've done and created. I'm like, I have to go see that. You know, I don't like Britney Spears. I don't like Madonna. I would go to a Madonna show. I would go to Britney Spears show.
I would go to a Madonna show just because she fucked Guy Ritchie.
All right.
I watched Snatch the other night, and I'm
a good enough reason.
I'm going to do a podcast review on that movie, King Arthur. So I've been doing this
I want to see that
segment called After the Show. Okay. It's really good, dude. I mean, I'm critical of it in some facets, but
I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
Go ahead.
This girl I worked with, what am I? I'm 37 now. Let's say I was 30 years old. She might have been 45. I don't know if she was hitting on me or not, but she goes, yo. So I got this ticket to go see Crash Into Me. What is that? Crash Into Me.
Oh, dude, I'm going to see Dave Matthews in May.
Okay.
He's playing in Arkansas.
Not a fan.
Hold on. Wait. I'm wondering. I haven't seen him either. I don't listen to his music.
No, but hold on. Wait. Not a fan. Went to the show. Blown the fuck away.
Live performance.
It was one of the best. It was one of the best concerts I've ever been to. I was taken aback. I reevaluated everything about music, or about his music. I'm like, holy shit. The best fucking show ever. And then I didn't even know who this drummer guy was, but I was so blown away by this dude. It was the most on time, and I'm not even a fan of drummers. This guy's drumming was effortless, and it was perfect timing. He made it look easy, and they just fucking jammed. And it was one of the best shows I've ever seen. That and like being on stage with Skrillex with like 30,000 people. I was on, but it was. So that show, Skrillex, and then seeing Gwar.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah, so three very different
shows. Didn't you kick it in Vegas to Skrillex one time?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, dude. I think
Skrillex. Whatever, a couple times. I was on, yeah. You know, yeah.
Just a normal dude, right?
Kind of. I mean,
a weird-ass emo kid.
No.
Personable.
Well, as far as a human being, normal as fuck. Almost normal as fuck. There was something about him. Because this was after he left that band from First to Last. Funny, I was down in San Diego, and I started talking to my Starbucks barista about music. like, oh, I listened to this shit and blah blah blah. Like, oh, I went and saw this band First to Last. I was like, oh, I know that dude. And she's like, well, what dude? I was like, the singer guy. And she's like, you know Sonny Moore? I was like, yeah, he's my neighbor. But I didn't know he was famous.
I didn't know his name was Sonny Moore.
Yeah. So I go back and I'm like, hey, Sonny, I was in San Diego and this Starbucks barista girl like knew you. And he was like, yeah, no, my band was pretty big. I was like, I knew you did like you did like guitar or something. He's like, no, I was a singer and I played guitar for this band. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know that. And he's like, yeah, no, we were pretty big. And I was like, well, how big? Because I mean, that's far away. Like San Diego, this girl knows you. And he goes, how old are you? And I'm like, I'm 37. So at that time, I'm like, I'm 28. And he goes, oh, okay. So do you know NoFX? I'm like, do I know NoFX? That is the only fucking band that got me through my teenage years. Fuck yeah, I know NoFX. He's like, yeah, I was as big as NoFX. I was like, what? That's big time. He goes, yeah, I was actually on the same record label. I'm like, you were on Fat Records? He was like, yeah, that's my label. That was my label. I quit the band. I had some shit with the band in my throat. My fucking like, anyway, and then now he's Skrillex. And
dude, I love his music.
He's good, dude.
I've got tons of his songs on the playlist. And I just like putting him on shuffle on Spotify.
That guy is, his DNA. We're talking about Rickson, like like Rickson is jiu-jitsu. Skrillex is music. Not like he's like the pinnacle of all music. He's just made out of music. And he thinks in R&B. He thinks in pop. He thinks in dubstep. He thinks in fucking like, let's get angry and like, let me just create the most fucking angry song that's ever been. He goes, let me create the most like sensitive, like love, like, I don't know, that guy just can put into music the whole breadth of emotion and he can make a song about it and you feel it. He's a true artist.
That's what I mean. I feel that way about a lot of bands and their live performances. There's a band I really enjoy. It's my favorite band, Widespread Panic.
Oh yeah,
their studio albums are
good.
They're okay.
Yeah,
but like when you see them live, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Like, it's special. I've heard Joe Rogan said this recently about Rolling Stones. Mm-hmm. We were just talking about them. Like, you go see them live, there's this special thing that doesn't exist on the studio album.
Right.
Like, they've refined the song.
Right.
Like, let's say "Start Me Up" by the Rolling Stones. The song came out forever ago, and the way they play it now is not the same.
That's cool.
And it's on a whole other level type of a situation. That's my buddy Colby just saw Widespread Panic 4 nights at the Hard Rock in
Vegas.
Real quick, Sedgway. Love you, bro. Last year, I got to go see Widespread Panic for my honeymoon because of the seminar you taught at my gym.
Wait, what?
Yeah, dude.
You took that money?
Yeah,
I don't know how
that was our honeymoon.
I have no idea this comes together.
So real quick, I
don't know how that relates to me in one.
Our good friend Jack, my wife and I just.
I heard that guy was a piece of shit.
Yeah, I heard that too, but I'm here to debunk those myths through this podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm here to prove otherwise.
My wife and I, we get married. You come to the wedding. It was a great time at the wedding.
It was a great time at the wedding.
Such fond memories. I'm very, very glad you came, man. It meant a lot to me being there. And all jiu-jitsu aside and everything, I consider you a total bro.
Yeah, you're my bro.
So, but you said that you wanted to donate the seminar money. That you came in and did a seminar the night before the wedding, and yourself and other people donated some money. This is like for our wedding. Mm-hmm. And you're like, hey, I just want to gift this. I heard you guys are doing it. So Core and I, we both love Widespread Panic. We were able to go to the Riviera Maya in Mexico. It's the Hard Rock Casino. It's a resort, and these little Hispanic men drive you around on golf carts. And I saw this crazy raccoon monkey. It was awesome. And Panic every year plays there for 4 nights.
Okay.
And it's a very expensive deal, very luxurious. All your food and alcohol is paid for. It's kind of like going on a cruise, but you don't have to be on the boat and your favorite band's there.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
My buddy Colby just got back from this shit like 2 nights ago. Mm-hmm. Like, we went there, like, he stayed on the other side of the resort. But he and I have seen Widespread Panic together like 7 times, and every time it's different. Like some nights are slow, some nights are fast, some nights they're funk.
Yeah. That's
some
cool.
nights they're like their lead singer has a wow voice. Like there's a song they did with this guy that was paralyzed. They were in a band. They did this side project band with this dude named Vic Chestnut that was paralyzed from like the chest down. He wasn't like full on quadra. He could like move his arms a little bit, so he could play guitar. But they did this song with him, and like last year they played it, and I've heard it play it before live. They played it in Arkansas once live, and they sent this little line where it's like really slow about the mushrooms in your mouth and all this crazy shit. And and he's like, the mushrooms in my mouth. And I never have I heard that dude do it that way live.
Oh, cool.
I've listened to, I've like went on YouTube and looked at that version of that song. It's called Protein Drink by Widespread Panic. And it's really not by Widespread Panic. This dude, Vic Chestnut, died of prescription drug.
Oh, shit.
Because he's paralyzed. He's on pain pills all the time.
And did he OD on purpose, do you think? Or
I don't think so. Do you know who Ricky Lundell is? Speaking of Pedro Sauer earlier.
No.
He's a Pedro Sauer black belt. And his brother recently died. Was like somewhat paralyzed and had these back surgeries. And overnight, his med combination was wrong. He's one of those people that legit needed it. And his blood pressure all fucked up like my dad's. And he died in his sleep. And that's the same thing with this Vic Chestnut. It's like it comes a point where like your blood pressure drops so much, your heartbeat gets so faint that you don't come back.
Yeah.
That's why like a lot of people liken the opioid stuff to tripping. They're like, that was a cool sound.
Yeah, that was like one of those weird burps. Like,
I had one of those earlier.
Yeah, I was like, fuck, this is about to, do I move away from the mic or do I just
fucking let it go so we can have this?
I was trying to be a good guest and just be like,
oh, good times. But that's
the
a tragedy with Ricky Lundell. If you haven't, this dude, if you're not charting that guy, maybe look into him.
Yeah.
I'm really inspired by him. I was when I was on my way to California last time. It's been a couple of years since I've been out to see it. But I was like sitting in the airport at like 4:30 in the morning, and like this dude always comments on my Instagram shit, and he was like, "Good luck at Worlds, Brian." And I was like, "Damn, dude, thanks, bro." Like this dude's like an NCAA wrestler. He's the only NCAA wrestler that never fucking wrestled in high school, if I'm not mistaken, on that step.
Wow.
This dude is he's plugged into the source, much like yourself with Pedro. So his dad does jiu-jitsu. His brother did jiu-jitsu until his thing with his back came up. But this dude, like, if you go to his Instagram, he's like, he does like a front handspring, but doesn't use his hands. He just uses his head and like lands like in a pistol squat. Yeah. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, bro?
You know, some of that stuff is so inspiring. Like, you know, a buddy of mine, JJ, he just sent me this break. It wasn't necessarily breakdancing, but sent me this like breakdance video. This girl, man, there are some insanely talented people that can take a skill level to like level 15. I love that. So a guy who's for all intents and purposes paralyzed, he can do a front handspring with his head.
Have you ever seen that classic? It's like a viral judo video. It's a dude getting uchi-matted. Do you know? Are you familiar? It's the in between the legs leg throw. Like I turn around and your stomach's on my back, like a hip throw basically. Mm-hmm. But I put my leg between your legs and reap it. And it takes your other leg out.
I think I know what you're talking about.
It's called the throw of the kings. It's the highest percentage throw in Olympic judo, next to like Sayanagi.
Oh yeah, I thought it was going to be some crazy. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There's a classic viral video out there of a dude. I'll see if I can't. I'll see if I can't edit this in after we get done. But
by the way, you take a shitload of notes. Like, what are all these notes?
Hashtags.
Okay.
Yeah, hashtags, and then stuff that I might want to look up later, or stuff that I might want to ask you about in 20 minutes.
Okay, cool.
So it's a multi-eclectic thing. I need the young Jamie, bro.
Jamie, pull that shit up on YouTube.
Pull that shit up. Like we're still looking at ourselves.
No. I need 1980 Olympic third match. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, we say so we can memorize who the fucking Jimmy Pedro is for our black belt testing or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. For all the things that are important about judo.
Yeah. So What were we talking about before we got off on that?
I don't know, man. I tuned you out like 2 hours ago.
8 minutes in.
No, I'm only here just to hear myself talk, which I'm actually doing.
Which sounds weird.
Yeah, no, actually, you know, the weirdest thing is through my whole entire life, when I hear a recording of my voice, it sounds weird.
It sounds the same to me. It sounds the same as when we talk. That's what's weird. I think it's our own eardrums.
But hearing it now, do you feel weird hearing your own voice now?
I do. I feel like it's way softer, and it could be just like it could be because I'm manipulating it myself. Because like I don't know.
You're trying to
it's a psychological thing.
Modulate it somehow. Yeah, I'm talking and I'm like, yeah, I don't sound weird like I used to. I don't know why.
It's funny. There's a dude. He was on the last couple of Fridays. It's a dude I go to a lot of concerts with, and he's been doing my Music Unraveled spots with me. So if we go to a concert, we like the next day review it. Yeah, and we're just like, it was so awesome, bro. Did you remember the part?
Yeah.
And he's just like, dude, I don't know, man. I'm like Alex Jones. I can't.
Yeah. I thought it'd be tripping balls having this thing on, but yeah, no, it doesn't sound weird.
I'm used to it now. He said this is my seventh. I think it's the 17th episode we've done. My goal is to do 100 episodes this year, and I think I'm gonna smash that because I'm doing so many different spots, sports history. Which
I can't wait for the
I'm
episode.
Changing sports to, it's just like, it's going to either be jiu-jitsu or MMA. I mean.
Yeah, well, it's popular
fuck
enough.
the NFL.
I can't wait for the one time where you're like, your guest no-shows you and you get your fucking little Rickson doggy in here. And you're like, bro, sit down, put the little earmuffs on.
What do you think about living here in the house?
Wait, treat. And he's like, he's got
Tell us about that time you fell in the pond out back with the ice.
By the way, I saw this rad video. I grew up in Utah, right, as a little kid. So,
and that's where you trained with Pedro, right?
Yeah.
That's where you got into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And, you know what was rad about my dad was he didn't I grew up in a time where I'm trying to, like, you're in Arkansas, and it's very different than California.
Very different.
Very different.
Yeah.
But not about weed and not about like gays and shit like that. But it's different about like parenting, and it's different about. I used to ride my bike.
Conservative values.
No. What I'm saying is like, well, yeah, not that. That's not what I'm talking about. But that is probably a part of it. Yeah, sure. Give me some of that shit. But I used to fucking break out of the babysitter's house and then get on my bike and run away and end up 15 miles away on my bike and then ride back at 5 years old and then come back before the sun was down, and it's all good. Like, what'd you do? Like, oh yeah, I stuck out of the babysitter's house. I went to that park, like 10 miles that way. And then I jumped in the pond and I wrestled like 6 ducks. And then, I...
Fun part, man.
And then I hitchhiked back home. I'm like, cool. And that was like, all right, nice Wednesday. Go to bed. You got, school in the morning. And I would walk to school by myself. I didn't get driven. It was just a different time. It was a free time. It wasn't.
Were you raised as a Mormon?
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean, you mentioned
I have
Utah.
a really cool story about Mormonism, though.
Yeah, I mean, go for it. I will say this, like, Mormonism fascinates me, and a good friend of mine is Mormon, so I try to but
talk to him about it.
Yeah, it is fascinating to me. Not like I would like to take it up or anything. But
90% of my friends growing up in my father grew up in Utah. My grandfather, Justin Edward Taufer, was a Mormon, kind of high up dude. My mom, her family came down from Washington State and moved to Utah specifically because there was a naturopath. I wouldn't say I don't know anything about the dude. I just actually found this out like 8 years ago. I'm like, why the fuck did you guys end up in Utah? Like a homeopathic, but just a naturopath doctor. Like, take vitamins, don't eat shitty shit, like whatever, like a holistic kind of doctor. So my mom's family came down from Washington State, ended up in Utah. My dad, they'd been in Utah for a long time. So my grandfather was kind of high up Mormon dude. My father, I think, left the church at age of 20 and then had me when he was like 40. So it was like,
Nate was raised super traditional Mormon.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I have a few friends that in California that were raised Mormon. Anyway, so my dad had left the church, let's call it 25 years before the story was being told. Definitely not Mormon, but didn't harbor any resentment or anything like that towards the church. He's like, yeah, I'm not Mormon. That's not my thing. My mom's like, I didn't grow up Mormon. So they had us, right? But I came home, I'm like 8. I think I was 8 years old. And I come home one day. I'm like, Mom, Dad, we need to have a talk. And they're like, okay, Jack. I'm like, we need to talk. Mom and Dad, sit down. I would like to be a Mormon. And they're like, okay, well, why? And I was like,
I cannot picture you said leading out with this conversation.
No, I'm like, no, Mom, Dad, I want to be a Mormon. And they're like, okay, well, why? I was like, well, I want to join the Boy Scouts. And they go, that's okay. You by the way, just so you know.
It's big in the Mormon culture.
Yeah, it's huge. But I go, by the way, I want to join the Boy Scouts. And they go, that's cool. You don't have to be a Mormon to do that. And I go, but they believe in God. And I want to be a Mormon, Mom. I'm like, okay, well, you know that you don't have to be a Mormon to be a Boy Scout. I was like, Mom and Dad, I'm telling you, I want to be a Mormon. And they're like, okay, cool. So my dad left the church in his 20s. He's like 40-something at the time. Next Sunday rolls around. My mom and my dad, I remember there was these gray slacks, a white shirt, and a clip-on tie. And like, it's not kind. He's like, dude, put the pants on. Go in your room, put your pants on. I come out. Mom's like, let me tuck your shirt in. She tucks it in, puts his little clip-on tie, and she's like, have a great day at church with your friends. Oh, okay, cool. I go to church, do the thing, come back home. They're like, how was it? I'm like, it was good. I learned about the Lord Jesus Christ and that shit. I didn't phrase it that way. I think it was like 6 months. Okay, I was a kid. It could have been two weekends, but for me, it was like 8 years of Mormonism.
It's a big part of your life.
Yeah. It was a solid state. It could have been 3 months, but literally every weekend for, let's call it 3 months. Went to church. And then one day, I remember there was like one Sunday, I don't even know what it's called, but there was one Sunday every month that you had to go up. You didn't have to, but you would go up and you'd go. I'm like an 8-year-old kid, and there was like 100 people in this beautiful church. And I would be like,
they do have really, it's architecture.
It's really pretty. It really
especially in that region. That's like their Mecca.
Right. Yeah, and they respect that, and they have it. And the building that I was at was new and all that. But I was like, I forget what you say, like, hello, congregation, or like, yo, what's up, y'all? But I don't know what I said, but it was like, hello, everyone. My name's Jack. I love being here. I love all you guys. And then I love Jesus Christ, and I like good food, and I like school, and you just make up shit to say that you like, and then you thank everyone for that. And there was this like, it's kind of like, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which, and you just say this last part, and it was like something or other, blah blah blah, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and know this church is true. You said this thing at the end of it all the time. You just say it. You just say it. And then my dad's like, he's tying my tie, and I was like, oh man, I'm so nervous, Dad. Like, why are you nervous? I'm like, oh no, today's Super Sunday. I don't know if it was sacrament. I don't know what the word is for it. I'm like, today's.
I just gave a lecture on sacraments. Might I add?
What?
Go ahead. I just gave a lecture on sacraments. There's seven different kinds. Anyway.
Okay, I just said this thing. I'm like, oh well, it's Joe Blow Sunday, and he's like, why are you nervous? I'm like, well, I got to go up and I got to talk in front of everyone. He's like, you have to? I'm like, well, no, but I'm going to. But he's like, well, why are you going to do that? I'm like, well, I'm just going to do it. But, Dad, here's what I say is I tell everyone, 100 people, Dad, how much I love you and Mom. I'm a salesman through and through. And he's like, okay, do you have to say it? I'm like, no, but I'm gonna tell everyone how much I love you guys and that I love school. I'm like super salesman, right? And long story short, he goes, well, what when you go up there, what do you say? And I go, I tell him about, I love you guys. I like my family. I like good food. I like my school. I like improving my life. And I know this church is true. And he just, 8 years old, he goes, cool. Can I ask you one question? He's like, yeah. And I go, do you know that church is true? And I'm like, Dad, you say that you like this, you like that, and you know the church is true. And he goes, yeah, no, I'm not arguing with that. That's cool. But do you know the church is true? I was like, I didn't even think about that. He was like, oh, okay. And he just kept tying my tie. I was like, I don't know if this church is true. Anyway, so I had a brief 3-month stint.
Introspection, yeah.
I had a 3-month stint with the Mormon church. By the way, almost all the Mormons I met, the one aspect of that church that I really, really admire is like part of their principle is to be industrious. So like work your ass off. Like
you said that on the way here.
Yeah, name one, get your goals, work your ass off, go for it. And I really like that aspect of the church. And most of the Mormons that I've ever known in my life are good people.
I will say that too.
Yeah.
Every Mormon person I've
definitely
ever met was a great person. My wrestling, what I call my wrestling coach. He's a guy that moved here. He teaches history at Tech College in our town. And I mean, he got his degree from UNLV, and I mean he grew up in
University of Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Is that a Mormon church? Like I know BYU is.
No,
BYU
but
Hawaii.
There's a big Mormon contingent.
Yeah.
In that area. Ironically, this guy was also on the show Pawn Stars.
Pawn Stars.
Yeah, it's his claim to fame, which he doesn't claim or whatever, but definitely
he's
famous because he was on
Yeah.
Pawn Stars.
Right.
This dude is my wrestling coach. He's 6'6", 350.
Yeah.
There's a guy's telling you, like, we have that NFL guy. He's like looking up.
He's the only person.
Like for years, we've been looking up at our wrestling coach, and then this guy comes in that's played for the Indianapolis Colts, and he's looking up at him. I'll never forget the first night that NFL dude came in, and like our wrestling coach is like, "Hey man, what's up?
Hey, how's the weather up there?"
Yeah, I mean, which it's always nice to have bigger guys. I've had some bigger guys in the past that like existed in a gym of people under 200 pounds. Mm-hmm. And they'd be like, oh man, I wish we had bigger guys. And I will say like that guy, Bobby, that was at the seminar today. I looked around. Yeah, I looked around a noon class.
That's a big boy.
That dude's a black belt in karate too. He's done martial arts his whole life.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, his weight distribution was pretty good. Like he put it. I was like,
say that because I've encouraged him. He has an artificial hip.
Wow.
I've encouraged him to be a pressure player. Mm-hmm. I'm like, man, you're 46, or I think he's 46.
I was gonna pull him aside and tell him, I'm like, yo, you got this weird thing because you're a big dude and you're taught to use technique, but using weight is technique. So you're going to self-impose trying to be light and a sissy and not crush people. So it's kind of a weird predicament to be a big guy and learning jiu-jitsu because everyone's like, oh, you're using strength. And I'm like, well, if you put your weight in the right spot, you're not using strength, you're using weight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to use strength to pour that bottle of Crown here in a second. It's like Drink says it all the time. He's like, you can't do jiu-jitsu on some level without using some strength.
Of course.
Especially it's like I'm trying to hold you inside mount, and when you try
it's your muscles against my muscle. It is. But then there's leverage, timing, and technique. Yo, I got to piss real bad.
I kind of do too. And,
I feel like
we have 2 bathrooms in the house. And
you want to cross streams?
And a pause. Definitely. And there's a pause button on the Mac. So we'll just go ahead and pause it. We're at 220. We're at 222. So we could wrap it up now, and just have you back on in about 6 months or something.
It's your call.
Or we could come on back.
You tell me, man. I just have to pee, and then I'm going to chat for a little bit longer.
Yeah, let's do that.
How about, I was going to say, why don't we do that, and then let's wind the podcast down, because it would be kind of an abrupt ending. I don't feel like
Definitely. I got you got to at least tell the Diaz brothers story after. Because last time we hung out, you like, I'm like, oh, we'll see you later, Jack. And then you ended up filming videos for Maynard and or something like that, and hanging out with the Diaz brothers. I don't know.
All right. Yeah, never met Maynard yet, but.
Well, didn't you? Am I incorrect in assuming? Did you not tell me that? Like Maynard texted Hickson at dinner and was like, "Hey, congrats on your red belt."
That was
and then
through
he
Eddie
was like,
Fivey.
"Hey, let me film this video or something."
Eddie Fivey was texting Maynard and Hickson, and they were like chatting back and forth. Yeah.
legit. I actually saw Tool in concert in 2017, first time.
Yeah.
So, and my buddy Colby and I, who I mentioned that we went to Mexico with, thanks to you, my bro. We may go see a Perfect Circle, which is also a main band in Dallas here, May 26th.
Perfect Circle,
Pussifer, and
then Tool.
Jack Taufer is timeless. I don't remember what we were saying before that, but
they call me Timeless Taufer. Just
say, hey, I was talking to my history class the other day, and I was like, hey, Christopher Columbus. You don't need to remember the dates, but it's 1492, and you just say 1490s, you get an A, and but you can remember it if you want because it rhymes with the ocean blue thing.
Yeah, right. 1490.
Yeah, nah, dude, podcasting.
Ocean blue.
I want, part of it was I was saving up to kind of do it because there's actually a considerable amount of audio equipment in this room.
Yeah,
but I was wanting to podcast for over a year. I had an idea. I was just like, man, I listen to podcasts. I don't have television. I don't have the news. So I listen to these other personalities come on people's shows, much like yourself that you're doing right now, and that's where I draw a lot of other
content
people's
from.
Interpretations on current events and things like that of that nature. So
yeah, I actually until a week ago I don't have cable. I just had internet, and I would stream just only movies to my TV and sometimes series through Netflix and shit, Hulu, but. Yeah, I don't need to watch the daily TV. And it's really funny. I feel like I didn't realize this until now, but I feel like TV series kind of dumb you down. You just sit down and you zone out and you just
fall
watch
into a show hole.
Yeah, and you just watch this never-ending series and you're like, but okay, so I'm going to be a hypocrite here.
What series are you talking about real quick for us to use an example?
I don't know, like The Simpsons or
yeah, I know, 25 years or some shit. The South Park.
You just watch and you watch and you watch and you watch, and every night you just sit down and you watch and you watch. Whereas movies, it has a quick beginning and end. And but that being said, I fucking loved Narcos. I love there's these TV series that are 1, 2, 3 seasons. But I don't know, for some reason when it's online and you can kind of condense it versus just drag it out. So now I have 220 channels. I got Google Fiber and I got 220 channels. And I find myself, this is less than 1 week I haven't been in my play, less than a week. At the end of the night, I'm like, cool, I got my shit done. What am I going to do? Normally I would find something to do. And now I'm just going to I literally sit back and I just turn it on. I'm like, find something to numb my existence, and I'm like, I don't like that. So I think I might get rid of the 220 channels and just
go back to streaming.
Yeah, just when I want to watch a series or if I want to watch an episode, I can do that.
You know what's crazy to me is how much YouTube has transformed over the last 5 years.
I really like I like YouTube.
I mean, I can watch Choke on YouTube.
Yeah.
I can watch a ton of documentaries on YouTube. I can watch a ton of shows on YouTube. Yeah. I can occasionally catch a movie which someone has illegally uploaded, or UFC fight.
Never seen it.
It's a great place, and I've been telling people this since starting the podcast. Is there is no audio version of YouTube. Everything is
you said that. And I was thinking about when the only one would be SoundCloud.
Okay, so you would think that SoundCloud is the first place I went to host a podcast.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Hey, yeah, great, make your account. We're gonna host your podcast." And guess how much space they give me per month?
Yeah, you told me it was a fraction of something.
3 hours. We're at 228 right now.
But well, hold on. They just changed their. I have one video on YouTube of noteworthiness. It has 1 million views.
Yeah.
Uber
racist driver.
Racist
Uber driver. Yeah.
Which is
Uber racist driver. It's
Uber. Yeah.
Racist Uber driver.
I have 400 subscribers or something like that, and they won't monetize shit now until you have 4,000.
Okay, yeah,
or 1,000.
I think it's
something.
It could be 4,000. It could be.
I forget what it is.
I'm not sure. I have a few YouTube pages. I think I was just telling you, I have a member website, and I've thought about just making it all open. Because what I can do is
dude, you should with all your pod. Yeah, fucking open it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For our kickboxing people, is the only one I might do like hey, I invite you to view this playlist, because it's going to be like 20, 25 people, and maybe more. But it's like we put our curriculum on there, and that's the only program or anything I offer that's like could be taken out of context, like, because like we just started our curriculum over the last 3 months.
Yeah.
And this 3 months we're on to like there's like 18 what we call blocks, where it's like, hey, this combo is in this it's a theme. Yeah. It's like us doing mount. Mm-hmm. And so like right now we're doing cross hook, cross hook stuff, like cross hook, cross rear leg kick, stuff of that nature. And I don't want people to take it out of context. I mean, I'm showing like kind of somewhat random techniques that fit in the thematic block of information. But YouTube, unfortunately, I can do that playlist as unlisted and invite the people that are in the kickboxing class. It's like, hey, just subscribe, just find the playlist and click on it, and I will confirm you, just like our Facebook group or whatever. So like social media has kind of made it possible to go away from like, I pay a lot of money for web hosting. I think I was talking to you about that earlier. And I do, like right now, currently, I have a lot of websites. I have 4 websites. I have a website for the nonprofit, the martial arts site, we just like our fitness, kickboxing, yoga, boot camps, all of that's on its own site. But, and then member website, nonprofit, yeah. And then the member website, that's the 4th website. So like, I was like, well, I'm not going to host.
But there's also all your porn.
Yes, my personal videos, which I star in.
Yeah, your
solo
your
videos.
Solos
me
starring.
In front of the MacBook. Yeah, totally. Or the iPhone. I mean, whatever.
You got multiple angles. Sometimes you get the,
Yeah. But, anyway. I totally...
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. This is like... that was a left hook. Left hook.
I was thinking about masturbating to my cell phone, and they got distracted, so... Man, I can't imagine. I was telling you last night about Joe Rogan being on that podcast with those 2 girls on. Oh yeah, the podcast guys,
and they just started it with like, so anyway, I got this new dildo, and I found my G spot in my butthole, and then you're like,
dude, I mean, like, I can't even tell you. I've maybe never even heard a woman say the words anal orgasm. But like, I mean, like literally, like I had a buddy of mine text me. I told you this, like the Joe Rogan where Eddie Bravo and him are Eddie Bravo's on, and like literally in the first 60 seconds, like Tower 7, I don't, and it's just like, oh, this is gonna be a good one.
Like, all right, yeah. Like I'm focusing. I'm gonna turn off my cell phone. I'm gonna listen to this. Yeah,
man. I don't want to in any way rip Joe Rogan off, but that was a major inspiration. Like, at some point, I stopped watching normal stuff and started watching a lot of podcasts. And I watched more
it's
than
interesting.
just
I think it's our age though, to a degree, because when you're a kid, you want rock and roll, you want music, and then when you get a little bit older, you switch to AM. You want fucking talk radio. You want to hear people's opinion. You want to hear arguments. You want to hear intellect. Let's talk politics. Before like fucking 28 years old, you don't give a shit about politics. But now you're like, no, fucking let's talk about social this. Let's go. And so I don't know if it's an age thing, but it's a nice form of media because, one, it's unregulated and you can do whatever the fuck you want. And you don't have the Federal Trade Commission. You're not doing it over broadcast, whatever.
Did you watch the FCC lady on Joe Rogan recently? Speaking of Joe Rogan,
I did not.
It's a very worthy watch. Her last name is Rosenworcel.
Okay.
Yeah,
wait,
I can't forget.
I don't know what's more entertaining, her name, the way you say it, or your face when you say it. Rosenworcel.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like a 40-something-year-old lady with a couple of kids, but very intellectual and talks about breaks down the whole net neutrality FCC.
Oh yeah,
she's on the FCC. That. It's really it's a really good worthy.
No, I need that because people are dumb. And you guys can all hate me for saying that, but
unfortunately, that is I would assert that is a true statement. It may be a true statement.
Actually, I'm not going to say people are dumb. People are highly intellectual. However, people are illiterate.
That's a great way to put it.
No, it's true though.
And they can read, but they can't
they don't understand. They don't understand. There's context to the meaning of the words, and there's definitions of words, and they'll pick up things and they'll associate things with other things, but they're not understanding what the intent of the author is. So what they do is they listen to other opinions about the thing, and they associate it with what other things, and they don't actually look at what the context.
Facts.
Yeah, they don't. No, they don't. It's not even facts. They don't even actually understand what that sentence means. So they get analogies and associate. And now the original text is construed and misconstrued and associated with these other things. And so that sentence is now that, which means this, and then you're off in left field. No, that sentence meant that sentence in its own right. You just didn't understand it, probably because there was words in there that you didn't actually know the meaning of, but you associate with other words, and then you just you go down left field. And so people like,
well, I will say this: Cora is a super like she's 4.0 since kindergarten. Mm-hmm. One of the smartest people I know.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me. And sometimes unfortunately for me. But she took a class called History of England, and the professor is very strict. And it was all about classroom discussion. That's the way this class was ran. It was all like everybody's going to participate. And she called on Cora, and Cora made an A in this class and just killed it in this class. But one day, she was like, hey, what'd you think about that on the readings? And Cora gives her deal and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, what about this? And Cora's like, I don't know about that. And she's like, well, that is a word in your reading that you didn't look up. Mm-hmm. Why didn't you look that word up? And basically it costed her on the spot. And this is probably the only time that, maybe the second time Cora told me about the story in 8th grade where this football coach of mine kind of didn't give her an A or something, and she's still very upset about it because Cora's perfect 4.0 student all the way. And but it was how many times do we come across a word or concepts are a little more theoretical, but a word where we don't know the meaning of it, and we could go read the definition of the meaning of it and derive ourselves to a concept from there. Mm-hmm. But that was something, and Cora is a very smart person, and killed it in this class. In this class, I was like, I don't know if you should take this class. This professor's a great person, and I really like her, but God damn, it's she's very, very strict, very hard class. I never took this professor for class because I was worried I would make a B in the class or some shit.
Yeah.
But I totally get what you're saying.
What's complicated about the English language specifically is that one word can represent 10 concepts. So, agreed. Hey, I want you to go sound the pool. Okay, so you might go get speakers and fucking jam out and dunk speakers in there and electrocute yourself. Definition of the word sound, a definition is to check the depth of. By lowering it, whether it's a stick or a string, you check the depth of. So please sound the pool. But there was a seemingly normal word that you didn't understand, so you invent this whole other thing that has nothing to do with the actual concept.
Through association, yeah. Yeah,
or other constructs or whatever. But the most misunderstood words are the most common. To, is, if, to, for, but, be, if, and, those words.
Which some of those words are the most common logic words. Is, therefore.
Yeah. Heretofore, if then. Yeah. But they do mean something, and if you don't understand them, you're not going to understand the rest of the concept. But then there's words like justice or confront, or you can pick any word, and if you don't know what that is, I think Brian, okay, let's talk about the word man. All man is created equal. Okay, and I picked that word specifically because
is it gender related or human related?
Right. Okay, a word is a physical thing. It's a
mouth
symbol.
Sound.
It's a mouth sound. But it's a mouth sound or a written set of characters that represents a concept. A word is not the thing. A word is not antagonistic. A word is something that represents a concept in your mind. Man means the human species. One definition. Another definition is like a thing with a dick. You know, that fuck slide is like an asshole like you and I.
What's funny is when you were talking today, because I noticed myself doing this, and I was like, fuck, I gotta stop doing this. I think about it all the time, but I'll be like, okay, guys, we're gonna do the arm bar.
The guys.
Or like you say guys, or you say, all right, the guys on bottom.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like you said that at one point in the seminar today, and you're like, all right, the guys on bottom. And I was like, man, like I totally, like I've just been thinking about that point lately.
Maybe shouldn't say that.
Maybe say person.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, person.
Mammal.
Okay, mammal on the bottom.
Mammal.
Yeah, yeah. But here's the thing. If I say man's best friend is, or mankind, I am not excluding women. I am not denigrating women. I am taking a word that has a definition that's known and written and should be understood by females and men and gender-neutral people alike. It doesn't mean males with cocks and balls. It means all of humanity. But if you were not taught that, you take it out of context and you associate it to mean something else, and now you get offended because you're ignorant. Anyway, so...
Well, see, here's another example. Like, my dad is actually who taught me this, but like you just said, ignorant. And that would be like, a lot of people are going to interpret that to be like, hey, bro, you're dumbass.
No.
But it means you ignored the facts, or you ignored I mean, what's the root word there? Ignore. And
you are not privy to this information.
You're not paying attention.
Right.
Like, you misinterpreted it or whatever. But my dad told me that early on in my life. Like, he's like, well, ignorant, like when you say ignorant, people think you're insulting them. But it just, like, I'm saying it in like, you've ignored the facts. You've ignored.
Yeah, you're not aware of the fact that this also thing happens.
Yeah. So yeah.
Anyway, I could come up with a bunch of examples of like way that words can be misunderstood, and because of that, your understanding of what was written, what was actually communicated, have nothing to do with each other. The guy could have the most politically correct. There was an example of it comes. Is it Kant, the philosopher Kant?
Candide?
No, Kant. K-A-N-T. Kant.
Kant. Immanuel Kant.
Yeah.
Or Kant. I don't know how you say it, but yeah.
There was a guy, Rumsfeld. He was part of the Bush administration war guy. He gave this speech about the knowable and the unknowable, which comes down to basic like philosophy and things like that. There are things that are known, and there's things that will always be unknowable. Like there are things that are unknowable.
Well, yeah, there's universal truths and there's things.
Self-evident truths and there's unknowable truths, and then there's just shit that we won't know. But this guy, I remember my friend, his name's Felipe. He's like, oh my God, look at this fucking idiot. Watch this video. He's just having this orgasm about, because the guy's like, look, there's knowable and unknowable. But he said the word noble and unknowable. And if you didn't know the context and what that word meant, his speech is gobbledygook. It's absurd. If you knew what those two words meant, it was a very highly intellectual Kant, Socrates. It was a high-level discussion. It was like, look, we're in the field of this, and there's knowable and there's unknowable, and we're working the knowable, unknowables, and then. But anyway, you track it down, and it was a very intellectual talk about things. But this fucking idiot didn't know the difference between knowable and unknowable. He's like, this guy sounds like a retard. Look how dumb he is. What does he mean?
Motherfucker.
Yeah, and I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. And he's like, wait, what? I'm like, here's what noble is. Here's what unknowable is. Watch it again. He's like, oh, well, why didn't you fucking just say it in the first place, bro? I'm like, he did. He did. Yeah.
You ever listen to any You mentioned the which is colloquial called the mushroom guy, who I've talked to about on the podcast. Paul Stamets, he was on Jerusalem and Joe Rogan.
Oh, about the mushrooms and your immune system and things like that.
Neurogenesis and what have you. But I feel like some people listen to things like that. I listened to that guy and I was like, wow, I'm gonna go buy these legal mushrooms that only grow in Asia.
Yeah,
and take those, and that's gonna make me think about things mo better. And but some people are like, this dude's just a fucking druggy, psychedelic, blah 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 blah.
Well, go on.
No, well, and he was ironically on Joe Rogan about calling mushroom shrooms.
Oh yeah.
Which I was just like, well, yeah, this dude's heart isn't seemingly in the right place. But fascinating how people interpret things initially because they don't know basic things like vocabulary terms.
Right. Yeah. Here's the funniest thing about. We can wrap this up soon. I know it's a little bit long.
Yeah, man. We're at 2:45. You go as long as you want, man.
Man, I got 10 more hours. Let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to do a private lesson until 11 a.m. It's like
what is that?
10:18.
Dude, I got.
It's not even midnight.
Dude, I got 13 more hours.
I've never done a 3 or 4 hour podcast, so I feel like once we hit the 3, I'll give you the high sign. You can just keep going as long as you want.
Yeah. Anyway, we were talking about words. It's interesting. A word is a concept. A word is a symbol that represents an idea or it represents an action.
Sound.
It's a mouth sound. Or it's not always a mouth sound. It's a written thing. But that's not the thing. That is a symbol. And a mouth sound is a symbol. A symbol is a thing that represents something else. So a written word or a vocalized word is a mouth sound or a written thing that takes the place of an action or takes the place of a thought or a feeling or something like that. But they easily can be misunderstood. There's a lot of words that people use that they just don't know the definition of.
Granted.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Probably everybody.
Yeah, but so when you're trying to communicate and you use a mouth sound or a written mouth sound to use your words.
Well, it could be a drawing of a symbol. Like this tattoo on the back of my arm, for example, is if you drew that in straight lines instead of circular lines, that would be one of those Aleister Crowley symbols I was talking to you about Led Zeppelin earlier. Because it could be a symbol, and the symbol means the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost, or whatever. Which is fascinating to me. It could be a sound. It could be, like, I see a verb, and I'm like, well, that means to this, and to this means da 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 da.
Most people don't even know what the word verb means.
Sadly,
they don't know what a preposition is. They don't know a noun. They don't know an adverb. They don't know a verb. They don't know. Anyway, we could go down the parts of speech. Nobody knows that shit. And if they do, they can robotically repeat it. A verb is a word that shows action or a state of being. Yeah, well, what does state of being mean? What does that mean?
Even in logic, man. Well, if this didn't, therefore, it's just memorization at that point.
Yeah. And here's what happens when you don't understand is you memorize and you parrot.
You just repeat.
You just say
I'm trying
the things
to get in the habit of that, and I will say, sadly, being a jiu-jitsu instructor or a martial arts instructor, actually, I do that accidentally sometimes. Let me
interrupt you and give you a real life definition or example of. You said, we pay word homage, or what was the thing that was said today? Lip service to these things. I see it all the time in jiu-jitsu. Yes, posture. Yes.
Jack told me about connection.
Dude, I see guys like this with their head down, arched back, hands here, and they're like, yes, this is posture. And I was like, that is a
Get
posture.
Your fucking shoulders back, bro.
No, that is a posture, and I could sound like the most Rickson Black Belt ever. I'm like, yes, this is connect. Yes, I'm in the middle. Yes, this is posture. And I could be doing all of it wrong. None of it represents what he's trying to communicate with when he says, yeah, here's good posture. You want your weight distributed that way, blah, blah, blah. So when you don't understand, because I went through this in third grade studying grammar. Adverb. It's a word that describes an adjective or another adverb. Yeah, you start yawning. You don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But here's what I did as a kid, and I got an A on the test. An adverb is a word that describes a verb or another adverb. Give me an example, and I could just give you 2 examples out of the book.
See, I could always do examples.
Yeah, because you don't know what it means. I'm like, what does it fucking mean? What is a noun? It's a person, it's a place, it's a thing.
See, so at what point like for you today, examples made me understand the concept. And I left there not understanding things, then that's why this next time. But I feel like in general education, especially at the high school pre-level, like let's say 8th grade, there's none of that. It's just like, hey, memorize it, fucking put it on the test.
Well, that's the thing. You memorize it, you fake it till you make it, you just say the things they want you to hear, you fucking glaze over. And there's a point, like in jiu-jitsu today, you can understand the weight, and you put the weight there, you can do it, and then you can actually make it work because you really understand it.
You know, you're the first person that told me about distribution of weight.
Okay.
I mean,
but how about
other
this?
people did, but like you're like, hey, this is a big concept, and here are the 6 different places that you think about it.
Cool. But how about this? Today, you switch your hips, your weight was way the fuck over here or over here, and then you step over, and you were fast enough to fool your opponent, or you didn't understand it. But then you go, Jack Taufer said that Rickson said, or Rickson said,
you just repeat it.
Yeah, and you just repeat it, and you don't know what the fuck they're talking about. You don't know why. You don't understand the meaning.
It would be easy to fall in that trap, and I will tell you today, if I hadn't been working with a 4th degree black belt on the side, which I was honored to do,
dude, that guy's a fucking pimp, man. That guy's awesome.
Man, and I will say this, like, you did so awesome at coming over. It's like I would never want. Fortunately for me in my line of work, I never deal with higher ranks. You know what I'm saying? But you did such a good job about coming over. I mean, Dring's a 4th degree black belt and a legit 4th degree black belt.
Oh, yeah,
I feel like he's.
No, like I
really liked working with him today. It inspired me, and like I said, 2 of maybe the 4 total seminars I've been at that he was on the mat. I mean, 'cause, yeah, dude, he had his 2nd hip replaced since I've known him.
I know.
And was coming off of his 1st hip replacement and the surgery on the 2nd one before he had it replaced. So to see him on the mat doing that is such an inspiration. Yeah. And to get to work with him even more so, because it's usually Caleb getting to work. If Caleb would have been there today, I'm sure Caleb would have worked with him.
Sucked him up. Yeah.
Because, I mean, he wants to... Dude is jacked. I mean, like, his shoulders fucked up, his knees fucked up.
Okay, so let's circle back to this concept.
Go ahead. Yeah, definitely.
He understands weight distribution. He didn't just reiterate words that I said. What he did was like, no, I understand the concept. Dude, let me help you understand it too. And so going back to like education and things like that, you can reiterate words based on memorization, but no fucking understanding. So that was in a physical science today, but in an understanding of context of words, people don't know what words mean. They don't know what words mean. And so what they do is they parrot back the shit that you think that, like adverb. It's a word that describes a verb and another adverb. Oh, well, that's an A. Give me an example. The red car. Red. The very red car. Very describes red, which is an adjective. I forgot adjective. It's a word that describes an adjective, a verb, or another verb. Fine. Anyway, so I omitted some shit out of the definition of adverb. But an adverb is a word that describes an adjective or another adverb, and whatever. Now I'm going to sound like a fucking idiot and a condescending cunt because I've had a little bit too much Crown Royale. A word that describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. But I do understand it. Like if you gave me a sentence, the very red car. Car's a noun. Red's an adjective describing the car. Very describes the red that describes the car. Or the very, very red car. So that's, anyway.
You're a smart motherfucker. I mean, I gotta
I'm dumb as rocks. Do you know how many times I've been choked out?
I think you're just playing that shit off, man. I'm not gonna lie. You're one of the smartest people I know.
You're a liar and you're drunk.
You blow my mind every time we hang out.
I think this
even if we're talking about jiu-jitsu or other shit, adverbs.
prepositions.
This is all 8th grade science to me, and I don't remember any of it.
Right.
I mean, I do, but I'm like, oh, that's a pleasant review, and I'm impressed that you remember it.
Right. Anyway, let's call it a wrap.
Adverbs, yeah.
Let's fucking adverb the shit out of this.
Yeah, we're 253 in, 254 now, actually. I think we set the record on the longest podcast.
We're close to 3 hours, right?
We're close to 3 hours.
Do you think I should try to hold my breath for 6 minutes?
6 minutes. Go.
No, I don't want to do it.
Oh, it's actually only 5 minutes and 45 seconds.
Okay, if I turn blue and die, call the cops.
I'll wake you
up. I mean, okay.
The dog will lick your face.
Mouth to mouth. Oh, he would actually wake me out of that. Or you trying to do mouth to mouth would resuscitate me from the dead. I'm alive. I'm alive. Get off of me.
Oh, too funny, man. Well, dude, I really appreciate you coming out to
Dude, I fucking love being here. Yeah. You know that I love being here, right?
Man, I'm so glad, too, because it's pure happenstance that we met and became friends. It's pure happenstance that you traveled to Arkansas and met one of my best friends ever, who unfortunately couldn't make it today, Mike Page. But, I will say this, I mean, on multiple levels. Like, as soon as I met you, I was like, well, this dude is a rad motherfucker. Like, I could be friends with this guy, and that's why I can listen to what he has to say.
Go.
And if you haven't listened to the Jack Taufer, I refer your videos constantly. I was sharing them this week, and it doesn't matter if it's a Budo videos video or what is your guy's name that puts out the vlogs. I know he's done at least one video.
Ryan Young.
Ryan Young. Yeah. Common Jiu-Jitsu vlog. Check that out. Because, man, anytime you talk, and I'm honored to have you on the podcast. Anytime you talk, anytime you have something to say, I love listening to it. And it honestly, man, and apologies if I ever interrupt you, but it gets my mind firing.
Good.
I get to thinking about stuff, and that's special. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody can inspire somebody to want to learn something like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Or you colloquially to say martial arts, because I almost hate calling what you bring to the table and what Rickson brings to the table with jiu-jitsu, because so many people in the modern sense think about jiu-jitsu as a grappling art. But he's like, Rickson said something about the Vegas seminar. He's like, I don't have to strike, but I have to think about strikers. I don't have to be a boxer. I have to think about how to deal with boxers.
Right.
And you labor under the same sort of synapses. So
tomorrow, here, write a note down.
For sure.
I used to have this in the last private I took with Rickson. He was like, I call it robot hands of death. Just write that, robot hands of death.
Okay, fucking bad.
I'm gonna teach you about robot hands of death.
Yes, I can't wait.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, and I'm very happy to chat with you. I'm actually. This was fun to just chat, but more importantly, I was very happy to be here in Arkansas.
I hope this can. Why I got into why I wanted to get into podcasting for a long time is I hope that they can serve for a resource for my students or future generations of people. I mean, we talked about everything from education to jiu-jitsu to
drugs,
Mormonism and drugs.
Yeah,
that's why I went with the term, which actually Mike Page. I was like, hey, dude, I'm gonna start a podcast.
Yeah.
You got any ideas? And he's one of the first people I go to, and he actually gave me the name of my gym, Forza Martial Arts. He's like, dude, I just recently got onto this concept called Forza.
Yeah.
And it's a Portuguese word. It means this. And I was like, oh.
What does it mean again?
It means strength in Portuguese.
Strength, yeah. Because alavanca is what the Gracie boys are running with, and that's leverage.
Interesting. Do you know how to spell that?
Yeah, alavanca. Alavaca. Alavanca.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Portuguese is fascinating. Because it's actually pronounced Força.
Força. Oh, Força martial arts.
Because, the little accent on the C, and I may be mispronouncing that, but it's in the neighborhood.
I feel like it was perfect enunciation.
Yeah, but Mike is to thank for that. Mike's to thank for me knowing who you are. So thanks for not coming to the seminar today, Mike. It's no big deal.
Yeah, no, dude, I was actually very grateful you're not present.
Yeah, and very grateful you didn't call or text us back.
No, I'm glad that I didn't have to talk to you this time.
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff going on. So podcasting, teaching seminars, etc. But man, just want to say love you, bro. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being a part of my life. Thanks for coming to teach wedding seminars and taking the time out of your life and to come down and share with my students, man, because it almost means more to me in a very selfish kind of way. You're here because I love your jiu-jitsu.
You're about to make me tear up, man.
Me too.
Let's get this off camera.
I'm
going to hug it out, but I don't want it on camera.
I tell this to people, and it's no disrespect to any of my coaches. Dude, my head coach married my wife and I.
Yeah, I know. I was there.
I love both. Yeah, you were, and I'm so glad you were. And I love both those dudes so much, and they've taught me so much. And it's like Ben Askren was saying this the other day on Joe Rogan, or not Ben Askren, John Donaher. He's like, you spend a really limited amount of time with people, and they just make a maximum amount of impact.
You're right.
And I'll say that, bro. As soon as he said that, I was like, "Oh, that's Jack."
Cool.
And I would say that in Rickson too. I've only spent 4 hours total amount of time with that dude, give or take. And I can't tell you what a maximum amount of influence that made on my journey in martial arts and jiu-jitsu. It's not even just jiu-jitsu. It's like I was talking about him, how he thinks about boxing, how he thinks about this or that. And I have boxers, I have people that kickbox. I've had people that boxed and kickboxed in the last 3 months competitively. And MMA, my wife does MMA, has students that do MMA. And tons of people that do jiu-jitsu competition.
Yeah.
So I'm always thinking about that stuff. And man, you showed me more about just the concepts. It doesn't matter. Techniques don't mean dictating.
Yeah, it's the concept that you can apply to other shit.
And it's not as simple as, whether or not that's the only, but Donaher's 4-step model or whatever.
Yeah, which I want to talk to you about off camera.
But you've taught me more about just jiu-jitsu. Just the way to think about things, the way to be, the way to teach your students. It's not like we were talking about multiple intelligence earlier. It's not just like, oh yeah, my Brian Wilson's game has gotten better. It's that my I have a Jeff Woods who's uber intellectual. This guy's my mentor outside of jiu-jitsu. And really, the way he thinks about jiu-jitsu is inspiring to me. And man, every time I roll in with something that's what Jack taught me. And that was the last time I trained with you, one of my purple belts. He didn't get to come to the seminar today or last time. Or maybe he came last time, but he didn't come today. But I want to say I'd just been training with you in California. But I came back, and I was like, I only taught your stuff that week.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can tell when you've been training with black belts.
Yeah, you're like...
and he just generalized it down to,
black belts.
And I was like... because he knew I'd been training with you. He knew I'd been at your house. He knew I'd been in your garage or whatever. And he's like, dude, you roll differently. And I was like, well, that's because I think about things differently. And man, I have you to thank for that. I have you to thank for being humble enough to not be like a Tyron Woodley or whoever else and be like, man, I don't have time for you.
Like a Rashad Evans.
Yeah, just be like, yeah, dude, you're cool, but, you seem like a nice guy. But, a lot of people are nice people, and get the fuck out of here.
Right.
But, man, I truly appreciate you for taking the time to forge a friendship.
It was my pleasure, and it was my honor.
Awesome, man. We're 3 hours and 2 minutes, so we can officially sign off.
Okay, good. I was wondering why you were talking so long. You hadn't made it to the 3 hours.
Oh, yeah. Well, man, again, thanks, and thanks for coming out. Thanks for being on the podcast, and we'll see you soon, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you.